Okay, what's going on, everybody? This is the Artemis update that NASA is going to have a press conference about here. This is after the SLS rocket for the Artemis 2 launch campaign had to roll back to the VAB because of bad helium valves in the upper stage after a very successful test. So, yeah, let's see what we got. How's everybody doing? I'm going to tee in the NASA cast here. There we go. And, you know, just a couple of things here. Fellas, I don't like to talk during the press conference, so I'm going to have my mic muted. I'll be able to talk in chat, but I'm very, very interested in what this press conference entails, especially since, I mean, a question to ask here is, like, they rolled back yesterday, or very recently. Was that yesterday? I don't even know what day it is anymore. I know it's Friday. I think it's Friday. So I'm very much wondering what this is about. I don't think that's enough time to make the fixes that they were talking about with that helium valve. So we'll see. We'll see. This is very, very interesting. So, with all that being said, I'm gonna shut up and let's listen in. Listening at work, Bill. Right on, man. Right on. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna be quiet, and I'm gonna equalize that audio because it's underdriven as usual.
You are looking live at the Artemis 2 Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft in the Vehicle Assembly Building. Today, we are joined by agency leadership to discuss the Artemis 2 mission and the next steps for the entire Artemis campaign. Good morning and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center. I'm George Alderman, NASA's Deputy Press Secretary, and I'll be moderating today's news conference. I'm joined by NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman, Associate Administrator Amit Kshatriya, and Moon to Mars Program Manager Lori Glaze. Today, we'll be taking questions both in person and through our phone bridge, so media interested in asking a question, please press star 1 to enter the queue. And now we'll begin with opening remarks from Administrator Isaacman.
Thank you very much, George. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Appreciate everyone coming out. We're seeing each other a lot lately. Lots of updates. Expect more of it. First, I just want to give a lot of credit to the NASA workforce and our partners that have been working really tirelessly through the Artemis campaign. It's really especially impressive work, and I know they're all feeling it after we had what was a near flawless Wet Dress 2 performance. That Artemis 2 is now back in the Vehicle Assembly Building, which is imperfect. So we want to give you two sets of updates. Lori is going to speak with you about what we're learning about Artemis 2 now that it is back in the VAB, and what our path is back out to the pad and to launch this historic mission. But before that, I'd like to talk a little bit about the overall Artemis program, how we're going to achieve the President's objective to return American astronauts to the moon, to build an enduring presence, and ideally not wind up in some of the situations that we've seen recently. So let's talk about the situation. Artemis 1 launched more than 3 years ago. We had helium leaks with Artemis 1. We had hydrogen leaks with Artemis 1. We had helium flow issues with Artemis 1. Artemis 2 went out to the pad. Wet Dress 1, we had hydrogen leaks. And then after a second Wet Dress 2, where we made a lot of great progress, we wound up with helium flow issues. A lot of similarities between the two. And why is that essentially the case? Look, 3+ year launch cadence. I mean, Artemis 3 right now, as it's currently designed, won't fly for approximately another 3 years. So launching a rocket as important and as complex as SLS every 3 years is not a path to success. A component of that is when you are launching every 3 years, your skills atrophy. You lose muscle memory. We've got a lot of really talented folks that have been working hard on the Artemis 2 campaign, and you know, whether they're going to want to stick around for 3 more years after this mission is complete is a question mark. This is just not the right pathway forward. And I'd say also, when you are experiencing some of the same issues between launches, you're probably got to take a close look at your process for remediation. Are you truly getting the technical root cause, or are you getting close to it? So we've got issues with low flight rate. And I would say a great way to exacerbate that problem further is to start making changes to vehicle configuration. SLS is a very impressive vehicle. We don't want to turn every one of them into a work of art. And then I would also say that having very big objectives, a wide objective gap between missions is also not a pathway to success. So we didn't go right to Apollo 11, right? We had a whole Mercury program, Gemini, Apollo, lots of Apollo missions before we ultimately landed. Right now, our program is essentially set up with an Apollo 8 and then going right to the moon. And that is, again, not a pathway to success. So what is the right way forward here? So first, today we're announcing a standardization of the SLS fleet to what we'll call essentially a near Block 1 configuration. So the idea is we want to reduce complexity to the greatest extent possible. We want to accelerate manufacturing, pull in the hardware, and increase launch rate, which obviously has a direct safety consideration to it as well. You get into a good rhythm, launching great frequency, you get that muscle memory. In order to do that, we need to rebuild and strengthen the workforce here at NASA. Now, this is directly in line with a workforce directive that I released several weeks ago. We have to rebuild core competencies. The ability to turn around our launch pads and launch with frequency greater than every 3 years is imperative. Now, some people ask me questions on that already as we've talked about this, and it's like, how are we going to do that? How we can go from 3 years to something significantly less, to what I think should actually be inside of 1 year? And I'll point you to our history. We have a nice infographic that's coming out from Mercury, Gemini, Apollo through the shuttle program. I don't think it would surprise many of the folks in the room that our average launch cadence was closer to 3 months throughout all those programs, not 3 years. In fact, if you want a history tidbit, you look at the time when Apollo 7 splashed down to when Apollo 8 launched, you're approximately 2 months apart. We need to start getting back to basics and moving in this direction. So rebuilding the civil servant workforce and restoring core capabilities. Again, that will directly contribute to NASA's launch cadence, where we're going to endeavor to get our launches inside of a year, specifically down to potentially 10 months. And then we are going to add missions. In fact, we're essentially going to pull in Artemis 3 to launch in 2027 with a revised mission profile. So instead of going directly to a lunar landing, we will endeavor to rendezvous in low Earth orbit with one or both of our lunar landers, test out integrated operations between Orion and the landers, ECLSS systems, even to the extent possible, if we can get up development components of our XEVA suits to test out vehicle interfaces, even just getting an astronaut in a suit in microgravity, we can learn a lot with the idea that we should be learning. And take this information back to inform hardware development, whether it's in the landers or in the suits before Artemis 4, where we will attempt to land on the moon. We are also, as a component of the strategy, endeavoring to preserve up to 2 landing attempts in 2028. So if we get it inside of the 10-month turnaround time that we would like to see, Artemis 2 will launch on its historic mission in the weeks ahead. Artemis 3 will have its opportunity, if we can, by mid-2027, which sets us up for an early 28 and a late 28 opportunity. So that is the approach that we are taking at a very high level. I will tell you, we're not surprising our industry or our stakeholders at this press conference right now. We've been having these discussions for a long time. In fact, I give a lot of credit to NASA and its team. No one at NASA forgot their history books. They knew how to do this. They've had plans like this for a long time. Now we're putting it in action. We had a chance to have these discussions across all of our industry partners, all of the prime contractors on the SLS vehicle, both of our HLS landing providers. Everybody agrees this is the only way forward. And I'll say, had similar conversations with all our stakeholders in Congress, and they're fully behind NASA in this approach. They know this is how NASA changed the world, and this is how NASA is going to do it again. With that, I'll hand it over to Ahmed.
Thank you, sir. Let's see, the path forward that the administrator laid out, I think, is pretty clear. It reduces risk. It strengthens our ability to execute these missions and the campaign ahead of us. It reflects the adjustments that we need to keep our schedule credible and our teams focused on what matters most, which is safe and achievable missions. And also, I think it's important that we talk a little bit about the Artemis 2 crew. This is for them. also. When they get on top of that rocket, they need to know that they're doing it as part of a step, as part of a plan that's going to work. That they have said many times they're doing this mission so that their teammates can walk on the moon. They need to know that they're going to get on top of that rocket so that we're going to give them a plan for the rest of the team that's going to be assigned, that's going to go do this work to actually get to the moon. So our update today reinforces that commitment to them, that when we ask them to take that risk, when we take that risk together, that they're doing it for a reason. So we're going to build that program grounded in safety, incremental learnings, technical excellence, and long-term sustainability. So I think it's, our commitment to flight readiness, this is not about slowing down momentum. This is about increasing it, about making sure that we are focused on the right things in terms of how we execute the program. We need to get back to doing the workforce initiative that the administrator has directed us to implement is the absolute key ingredient to this. We need to get our teams working side by side with our partners outside and get this work done. So it's challenging, it's ambitious, but with this course correction, we are on a more stable foundation, a more realistic path to the milestones we have ahead. And we're so grateful to the teams across the NASA centers, across all of industry that's helping us. We have the entire force of American industry now helping us with the Artemis campaign. We are grateful to them for their support. They have been relentless in driving progress, and we need them to be even more relentless to achieve these missions. And this plan that we're laying out today makes that possible. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Glaze to talk about Artemis 2.
Thank you, Amit. I'd like to start by thanking the administrator for taking this incredibly bold step and moving quickly to assure that we have support and resources that are needed in order to launch Artemis astronauts to the moon every year. I want to thank our team as well within the Moon to Mars program on Artemis and all of our Artemis mission planning. Our teams continue to work tirelessly to enable mission success. I know to people outside of NASA, sometimes we make it look easy. What we are doing is anything but easy, and we've seen that with the challenges that we've encountered. I've said time and time again that our team rises to challenges, and they meet any bar that is set. This will be a challenge, and I know that we will continue to relentlessly pursue excellence at every step, and that includes not just our NASA team, but it includes, again, our contractor workforce and all of the suppliers that contribute at every level to the success of the Artemis space program. So first things first, I'm going to talk about Artemis 2. We were here just a week ago. We were all very excited last Friday after the successful wet dress rehearsal. We were in a great place at that time and looking at a launch in early March. Things changed pretty quickly last Friday evening, where we discovered the issue with the flow of helium to the ICPS, the upper stage of the SLS. That occurred as we were doing the reconfiguration of the SLS as we transitioned from the wet dress into the launch configuration. So that was it was disappointing, but that's where we were. And the response of our team was exactly what we should be doing. We allowed the data to talk to us and tell us what we needed to do, and allowed those findings, the operational findings, to guide us in what decisions that we needed to make. And the data were pretty clear that we were no-go. We were in a no-go situation without the ability to flow the helium to the RL-10 engines of the upper stage. So while we have the ability to access the boosters and the core stage out at the pad, we were in preparations already for being able to do the work that needed to be done out at the pad. We do not have the ability to access the interior of the upper stage at the pad. So that's what's the requirement to roll back to the vehicle assembly building. Our team has been working very quickly to transition from preparations for launch to preparations for rollback. And they did that extremely quickly. We were able to roll back within a couple of days. At the same time, the team has worked to streamline a plan for the work inside the VAB to give us the very best possible chance at a launch in the early April launch period. We got back to the VAB about 8 p.m. Wednesday night. The platforms within the VAB have already been extended. You can see them there in the live graphic. And the work has already begun, an incredible amount of work already going on. The suspected system components for the helium flow will be removed, and they're going to undergo detailed inspections and assess the cause of the issue. We hope to get down to the root cause of that and make changes not just to the hardware, but to our operational procedures so that we don't encounter the same issue again when we roll back out to the pad. In addition to determining the cause of the helium flow issue, the teams are also going to do a number of other things while we're in the VAB. We will replace the batteries in the flight termination system and conduct another end-to-end test to meet the Eastern Range safety requirements. We'll give the closeout crew another shot, another chance at closing out the Orion capsule, get them a little bit more practice in closing out the Orion crew module. And then also the seal on the tail service mast umbilical that supplies the liquid oxygen to the rocket before liftoff. That is also going to be replaced to ensure a tight configuration. As you recall, of course, the twin seal that supplies that goes to the liquid hydrogen was replaced out at the pad. So we've already replaced that one. So now we're going to replace the oxygen seal as well. And at the same time, we're also going to be reviewing the items that are already stowed in the Orion crew module. There's some of those time out, and we need to replace them. So we'll be doing a little bit of that as well. We will continue to provide updates, regular updates of how we're progressing within the VAB and our plans once they solidify on when we roll back out. We will definitely let everybody know. And just again, to return to Administrator Isaacman's statements, beyond Artemis 2, I know that our team is up for this challenge. We are ready, and we are ready to get started on that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take your questions. Please ask one question at a time so that we can get to as many of you as possible. We'll circle back if we have time. We'll start with a question here in the room, but if you're joining us via the phone bridge, please press *1 to enter the queue. I'll take our first question. Will.
Hi, thanks. Will Robinson Smith with Spaceflight Now. Thank you all for taking the time this morning. To the administrator or associate administrator, the plan for the revamped Artemis 3 to rendezvous with one or both of the HLS providers, can you speak to the importance of that component of doing Artemis 3 in low Earth orbit, and I guess how soon, given where both of those HLS vehicles are, how feasible that might be to dock with them as opposed to just sort of rendezvousing and getting in proximity with them in low Earth orbit? Thank you.
So I'll begin and welcome Amit's additional inputs on this. I think one of the challenges, but is also one of the greatest opportunities that comes from both our HLS providers, is the ability to return America to the moon, not just, again, for the flag and the rocks, but to be able to actually build out that enduring presence. So what they're taking on is technically very challenging, but a lot of that involves, whether it's on-orbit prop transfer or rapid reusability, because it necessitates lots of launches. We don't find ourselves in that situation for a low Earth orbit rendezvous. So this is an opportunity to test out the vehicle. We know they're capable of doing is not as much the technical process. The most demanding process is how to get that vehicle to the moon. So it's a perfect opportunity for us to test the interface out between Orion and that vehicle, to actually get humans in the vehicle, start looking at the ECLS systems. This is all going to help take down risk for a subsequent landing.
Yeah, I think for Artemis 2, we're doing on-orbit handling of the vehicle to test out rendezvous techniques. A low Earth orbit rendezvous is a bit more challenging than a LEO rendezvous, just because the external environment, the external torques are different. But as the administrator said, this was in the plan. We have to be able to mate with these vehicles. We have to dock. We have to ingress. We have to do those things anyway. But the point of the sequence is to really recognize the production risk in the Enterprise and the development risk. The production risk is the flight rate on the Earth Ascent Systems, SLS Orion. The development risk is prop transfer. So the way to burn a common target there, if you will, is to conduct a mission that accepts those risks as real, but still make as much progress as we can, to challenge both the production side and the development side at the same time.
Take our next question. Yes.
Thanks. Irene Klotz with Aviation Week. For anyone who wants to take this, does the revised Artemis 3 architecture require, or would you like for any of the HLSs to demonstrate the on-orbit refueling component, or does that fall off for Artemis 4? And for Artemis 4, if you're looking to fly in early-ish 2028 and you need a new upper stage, presumably it's still LOX and LH. What's available on that short notice?
Yeah, I think, first, not going to get into any specific manufacturer's name or the associated contracting process. Beyond that, as I mentioned, we've been discussing with industry this strategy for several weeks right now. Everyone acknowledges it's the right path forward. So we obviously have confidence in our ability to source and integrate a more standardized second stage to fulfill missions beyond Artemis 3. In terms of our HLS providers, they've both, I think, very publicly submitted proposals for their acceleration strategy that does take down some of the technical risk associated with the proposal. And we've said publicly that we support both in this regard. I don't think that what you're referring to, like on-orbit prop transfer, is necessarily going to be required for the demonstration that we are imagining for Artemis 3. But we haven't fully, we are very early in mission design here. We all have arrived at the point that this is really the only pathway in order to achieve success with a lunar landing within the timeframes that we are targeting. But I think part of the reason to do this in low Earth orbit is it does not necessarily require what both HLS providers will eventually necessitate, which is either lots of launches or on-orbit prop transfer to get their vehicles to the moon.
Take our next question over here.
Thank you. Ken Kramer, Space Up Close. I think this is fantastic what you've proposed here. It's exactly what's needed. So Can you talk about these landers a little bit? They're going to, I guess, have to be vastly simplified from what was proposed with those prop transfers in order to accomplish this so quickly. I know they're working on updates. Can you let us know at all? And where does the gateway fit in all this? Thanks.
To be clear, both HLS providers have offered solutions to accelerate their plans without compromising on the grander objective, which is we need to build out an enduring presence so when we return to the moon, we have the capability to stay. So while their proposals, again, do take down some of the technical risks that would have existed before, we are not forgoing the capabilities that I think are absolutely necessary for America's future in space. So to be clear on that point specifically.
And the gateway?
I think at this point we really want to focus the meeting to the greatest extent, because to be honest, this can be somewhat of the problem. The hardest thing right now is returning American astronauts to the surface of the moon. We obviously haven't done that in more than 53 years. I think by focusing a lot of time, energy, and resources across lots of grand endeavors is why you wind up in a situation where you're launching an incredibly important but complex vehicle every 3+ years. So I say that not to make a statement towards Gateway, because we are doing this to get back to the moon and have the capability to stay. Certainly to build a moon base, which is going to be ideal. Which can be an ideal learning environment for us to test out the operations, in situ resource manufacturing, refining, all the capabilities that are going to be necessary for the next giant leap to Mars and beyond. But I say with focus for this conference specifically, we gotta keep the attention on standardization and flight rate as our path to get back to the moon.
Our next question will come from Marcia Dunn with the Associated Press.
Marcia Dunn, Isaacman. How much did the recent problems with Artemis 2, especially mimicking Artemis 1, how much did that play into your decision to shake up the Artemis mission profile? And how disappointing are you to have to wait perhaps even longer to land astronauts on the moon? Thanks.
Well, first, I'm not disappointed at all. I'm excited because I think we have a path here to actually get the job done within the timeframes that we have targeted right now. I also, I guess, want to point out this is something that NASA has known. As I mentioned before, no one here at NASA forgot their history books. The plans to do this the right way have existed for a long time. We're in a fortunate position right now where you have a presidential national space policy, which aligns whole of government on what's necessary. You have congressional support through appropriation, and you have President Trump's one big beautiful bill, the Working Family Tax cut act that gave us the plus up in resources within our exploration budget to undertake this endeavor right now. So I would tell you that we would have been delivering this exact same message to you today had this been FRR. That was the plan. But I think we have to put even more urgency around it because this is not the FRR that we initially intended. The American public deserves the update on Artemis 2 and the historic mission that's ahead, but you also have to know how we're going to achieve the vision that presidents have called for more than 35 years.
Our next question will come from Josh Dinner with Space.com.
Hi, thanks so much for doing this, Josh Dinner, Space.com. For Administrator Isaacman, you're standardizing SLS, pushing toward a 10-month launch cadence and revising Artemis 3 to an on-orbit rendezvous next year with up to 2 2028 landings, which all sound kind of fairly accelerated for a deceleration of the program. What specific risk are you buying down with that LEO rendezvous? And are you anticipating demonstrations with multiple HLS vehicles on that mission? And how are you ensuring that schedule itself doesn't erode margins the Safety Advisory Panel has already warned are thin for Artemis 3?
Yeah, so actually I think what we're doing is directly in line with what ASAP asked us to do. I mean, look, just zooming out here, I think it should be incredibly obvious. You don't go from one uncrewed launch of Orion and SLS, wait 3 years, go around the moon, wait 3 years, and land on it. That's what our ASAP committee took issue with. That's what we've acknowledged inside the leadership of NASA. NASA's been working on these plans knowing this is not the right approach. There has to be a better way in line with our history on it. Again, we did not just jump right to Apollo 11. We did it through Mercury, Gemini, and lots of Apollo missions with a launch cadence every 3 months. We shouldn't be comfortable with the current cadence. We should be getting back to basics and doing what we know works. So how are we going to buy down risk on it? I would certainly much rather have the astronauts testing out the ECLSS systems, the integrated systems of the lander and Orion in low Earth orbit than on the moon. Like them to get in the suits for the first time, even inside the vehicles. Doesn't necessarily have to be an EVA before they actually walk on the moon in them. So everything about this mission, and even though it's beyond conceptual, we've obviously coordinated with our partners on this, but the full mission design and objectives will be revealed shortly. I'll just say it's certainly in the direction of buying down risk before we put our astronauts on the surface.
And our next question will come from Richard Trabot with the Orlando Sentinel.
Hi, thanks. Calling for the car, so hopefully you can hear me well. About the increase in workforce, the civilian workforce, what does that mean for personnel at Exploration Ground Systems, or specifically Kennedy Space Center, or the agency overall? And is there a concern about the flow of hardware from Orion or SLS? Potentially, are you going to have an Orion capsule for potential Artemis 5 in 2028 at this pace? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll kind of work backwards from there. As I mentioned before, we're not here today to surprise industry and our stakeholders. We've been having these conversations for weeks now. I've spoken to the leadership at every one of the prime contractors that contribute into the SLS program. Everyone's behind us, and they've all said the exact same thing. This is the only way to get the job done. So there's a lot of work we have to do here at NASA to prepare. Part of that goes to the second component of your question, which is we got to rebuild our core competencies. Now, does this mean the overall workforce count increases at KSC? I don't know the answer to that specifically. I would say that there's a lot of contractors which do fantastic work that should be civil servants. That's kind of the heart of the workforce directive right now. 75% of our workforce right now is contractors. I think a lot of them should be civil servants. I think we should have those capabilities in-house. We should have the ability to make changes and adjustments as we see fit because we are NASA. We did all this the first time. We know an awful lot. And this is going to be our kind of pathway back to the moon. So Lots of collaboration with industry. They understand what the ask is. They know we're going to need to pull in hardware. That's why we're standardizing the configuration. You're not going to be able to do that if every rocket is a work of art. You're going to inevitably learn the same lessons and over again. So standardize, increase production, pull everything in, which allows you then to increase your launch rate. And yes, we need to rebuild a lot of our workforce here too. Bring them in as civil servants and get back that muscle memory to turn the pad in less than a year, because we've done it before and we can do it again.
And our next question will come from Eben Brown with Fox News.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for doing this. I think this question is probably best for the administrator. When President Trump first announced the Artemis project back in 2017, he wanted to see a lunar landing by 2024. That was obviously not missed. This, despite perhaps being an integration of better practices, does once again push that goal a little further into the future. The president hasn't said much about this really at all, I don't think, but what's the overall attitude coming out of the administration here? I mean, are they happy with this, not happy with this, or how does the agency itself react to that pressure that may or may not be there coming from the administration to keep this on track as much as possible and make sure that there aren't unnecessary slips in timelines?
So to be clear, President Trump loves space. President Trump created the Artemis program. We obviously resumed operational flight for our astronauts to and from space during the president's first term. He created the Space Force. He signed a national space policy on my first day on the job in the Oval Office that not only recommitted American astronauts to the moon, but to build out a lunar base, and not only that, to start making investments in the next giant leap capabilities like nuclear power and propulsion, so we can, eventually have American astronauts put the stars and stripes on Mars. I've spoken with him numerous times leading up to my second nomination for this position about our strategy, the importance of the lunar base. He checks in with great frequency. The Artemis 2 astronauts were at the State of the Union. I was as well. This is a priority for the administration. I think that there are certainly questions of why we didn't make some of these decisions like we are today in terms of standardization and increasing flight rate in the years past. I think President Trump wants to correct that now, and he's given us all the ingredients to do it. A national space policy, congressional funding, and the plus up from the One Big Beautiful Bill is what enables us to undertake this course right now of standardization and acceleration for an achievable path to get American astronauts back on the moon before the end of his term. I know he's fully supportive.
We'll take the next question now. In the back in the beige, please.
Do you think that some of the budget cuts that we've had recently have contributed to that low flight rate? And would you say that we have the resources and funding to increase that flight rate? And sorry, I just have a logistics question. So can you just clarify the Artemis 3 timeline here? You mentioned mid-2027 and 2028, and I just want to clarify, are those two landing attempts? And then would you be launching in 2028? I'm just trying to wrap my head around that.
Sure. I mean, let me just address there were no budget cuts to NASA. We actually had historic funding last year between the consistent funding through the continuing resolution plus the plus up from the One Big Beautiful Bill or the Working Family Tax Cut Act. NASA had historic funding last year, which is the only reason why we are capable of undertaking this right now. So I just pause on that point. In terms of, again, to be very clear, because I know we're moving around here a little bit, Artemis 2 is going to launch in the weeks ahead, 10-day mission, historic mission to go around the moon. It's going to allow us to test out the Orion spacecraft. Artemis 3 will launch, ideally, by mid-2027. So this is now getting us back in the rhythm here of increasing launch cadence with SLS and the Orion spacecraft. Our objective there, and we've spoken with both our landing providers on this, is to rendezvous with one or both landers. That's an opportunity for us to test out integrated operations between Orion and the lander, which is important. That will be a crew-rated vehicle someday. There's ECLA systems we're going to want to test out. It's another opportunity for us maybe to get our suits up there before the astronauts actually have to wear them on the surface of the moon. If we can't make that timeline with suits, we have other opportunities to get them up to International Space Station, but we do consider that a priority, which then sets up for Artemis 4 and 5 potentially in 2028. We're not necessarily committing to launching 2 missions in 2028. We want to have the opportunity to be able to do that.
Take the next question. And second row in the gray.
Thanks. Bill Harwood with CBS News. I have about 10 questions. No, I'm kidding. I've got 2 questions. For Jared, you mentioned the ASAP earlier. Their report came out this week, and could you add anything about what input they had in your decision making? Because it seems like you're addressing most of their primary concerns, at least. And then for Lori, I guess, I know you guys are focused on these near-term flights. We're not talking Gateway today or whatever, but will you continue work on Mobile Launcher 2, or does the work stop now? And what about the lunar terrain vehicle, which originally was part of, I guess, Artemis 5? I mean, is it the same philosophy that's covering that? We're going to stop worrying about that stuff right now and focus on the near term.
Yeah. Sorry. So with respect to the ASAP committee, I would say that it is interesting that a lot of the things that we are addressing directly go to the points they raised in their reports. I can't say we actually collaborate on it because I generally think these were all pretty, obvious observations. So yes, ASAP was rightful to call out some of the, some of our shortcomings, and we should be addressing them. It just happened to be in parallel. So in any of my recent conversations with the committee, I said, look, we are completely aligned. I agree with every one of the points that you raised, and we have to address it. It just so happened to be, even our Starliner report came out in advance of theirs. They didn't know that was happening. It was just the right thing to do, just as our revised architecture and approach to achieving a lunar landing is the right thing to do. And I'll just say, I know you addressed it to Lori, but maybe make it easier on her a little bit in some of these questions about specific procurement strategies. We are building a moon base. You're going to build a moon base, you're going to need rovers. You're going to need lots of rovers on the surface. You're going to need comms, you're going to need navigation, you're going to need power. This is not lost on us. This is a high priority. This is what's so important in the national space policy is don't just go back to stay, right? I would just say let's keep this conversation to a great extent focused on the hardest part, what we haven't been able to do in the last 53 years, which is getting a good launch cadence and sending American astronauts to and from the moon. But I can assure you, all those things you asked about, are going to be a component to the how we stay conversation.
Our next question will come from Philip Sloss.
Thanks. The question is, does this mean that NASA is canceling the exploration upper stage? And if you're going to fly Artemis 3 in 2027, when is a crew going to be named for that mission? Thanks.
I feel like I'm taking all the airtime here.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about contractual issues. I think you understand the intent of what we're discussing, which is making sure we head towards reliability and standardization of it. We're going to work with our partners and make sure we handle that in the right way. The second part was
crew.
The crew. Yeah, again, same way. We're not here to do mission design, right? We're not here to talk about that. I think what's important is what we've said at the end, right? The whole plan is we need to chunk it into achievable objectives. The whole plan we've attempted. It's been augmented by the vision in the space policy that was released. That whole plan needs to be discretized and chunked into the right way. So we're taking incremental risk in the right ways as we continue to fly, as we increase production. That increases reliability, it increases safety, and we're going to do all that together while we increase, our training rates and everything else. So that's all part of the integrated plan. We're not going to do a whiteboard session on mission design here, but I can assure you that we've thought through the top level objectives, how they devolve into lower level objectives, and how we're going to put them into these missions.
Can you do that, Amit?
Our next question will come from Leonard David with Inside Outer Space.
Please? That'd be actually kind of cool.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for pulling this all together, and it's very exciting. I think for the administrator, when you had your back-to-back confirmation hearings, there was a lot of pressure of trying to beat China to get back to the moon. To what extent does that play a role here? Are we accelerating our plans. What's your thinking about China today? Because they probably are going to go maybe in the same kind of time frame.
Well, as I said during my hearing, I think competition is good. I think it's a great way to, motivate our workforce and our partners, again, to achieve the near impossible. Competition worked very well for us in the 1960s. Turned out, in hindsight, we had near endless schedule margin there. No humans have been back since Apollo 17. That is certainly not the case today. I'd say this is a very, very close from a timeline perspective. All that said, and again, I think competition is good. We're here talking to you about what is a common sense approach to achieve the objective, whether we had a great rival in the running or not. If we're committed to going back to the moon, we have the resources to do it. We have a presidential mandate to get the job done. What is an achievable strategy, regardless of the competition? And I can tell you, launching every 3+ years is not the right approach. You asked about the crew for Artemis 3. Ahmed is totally correct. We got Artemis 2 ahead of ourselves right now. We still have to get through mission design. You assign a crew that gives you the best chance of success. But I'll tell you, you've all had an opportunity to really get to know our Artemis 2 astronauts over the last couple years. It's actually not the desired approach. We'd like to announce a mission, tell you the objectives, here are the crew, and then fly it inside of a year, and then you start getting to know the next crew. It's kind of how it worked in the 1960s. We're going to try and get back to that now.
And our next question will come from Eric Berger with Ars Technica.
Hi, thanks very much for doing this. Someone earlier mentioned the speech or the original first Trump administration, and back in 2018, Vice President Mike Pence talked about going to the moon in 2024. At the time, he said something that really struck with me. It said, if our current contractors can't do this, we'll find new contractors. And I think this is kind of the most sweeping vision change since then. And obviously, the contractors, both traditional and commercial space, have had challenges since then. So I'm just wondering kind of what NASA can do to ensure its commercial partners can successfully deliver on these really aggressive timelines. Thanks.
I would just say that, similar to a recent conversation we had with all of you, this is largely about NASA. When we talk about why we've struggled, our shortcomings, I look internal first. What could we have done differently? That's why we're having this conversation right now. I didn't have a conversation with any of the prime contractors, any of the partners, as it relates to this acceleration plan, where they said it couldn't be done. They just didn't have the conversation really up until now on this. And I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for it, and I've said some of it before. We had a pretty, I won't say singular focus in the 1960s of getting to the moon, because we did a lot of great science and exploration at that time, but we generally were focusing on a couple key needle-moving objectives, which I talked a lot about during my hearing. Over the years since President Trump, during his first term, started the Artemis program, we've taken on a lot of interesting projects. Some people have asked questions about them here in this room. I'll tell you, the more multi-billion-dollar projects you have, the more resources and attention it captures, the less you launch lunar missions, right? So we're taking ownership of this. We're taking responsibility of the objective, the critical national objective that's been entrusted to NASA, and how do you do it? Well, you talk to your partners and you tell them we're going to have to start making some decisions. We're going to standardize. We're not going to turn every rocket into a work of art. We're going to increase launch rate. We're going to do it in a logical, evolutionary way. We're not going right to Apollo 11. That makes no sense. What can we build up to gain confidence so that when we do embark on the true landing, we have the highest probability of success? And that's what we're doing right now. So I'll tell you, today this is a NASA story. Not saying we don't come back to you in a year and say that we have to make some adjustments here with the vendor, but right now this is something that we need to own, and that's what we're sharing with you.
Next question will come from Ken Chang with the New York Times.
Hi, thank you. So with this revision, you're using up through Artemis 5, you're using up the SLS Orion that's mandated in the big beautiful bill. So I was wondering, Mr. Eichmann, are you thinking about the follow-on architecture that you've talked about after that?
Well, I think I've been, I'd say certainly our number one focus is what Lori spoke to you about previously, which is Artemis 2. That's our near-term, It's the most important human spaceflight mission in more than a half century. We owe you an update on how we're going to get to the moon, so we don't wind up in a situation where our vehicles are going back and forth to the assembly building. And we've got enough in front of us on that. But that said, I mean, I said it at the initial rollout conference. I've said it many times since. President Trump created a program to return to the moon, to build out a moon base that's going to require lots of missions to and from the moon, crew and cargo in a very affordable, repeatable way. This architecture will naturally evolve just as it is today. I can't tell you exactly what Artemis 10 looks like. I bet it's going to look very different than what Artemis 5 is going to look like, as I'm sure it will be for Artemis 50. That's the idea when you say you're going to go back to the moon and be able to stay.
We'll take our next question from the room. Up front in the yellow.
Gene Wright, Space Up Close. I'd like to know what the altitude will be, the lunar landing rendezvous. Would that be low Earth orbit or distance from the Earth? Just curious. Thank you.
Don't know. Let's figure it out. Yeah, ideally, we want to put as much, every time we take the ascent risk with a crew, right, we want to make sure we get as much done, right? And so we'll get into an orbit that's achievable for as many docking and mating operations as possible, as much, environmental similarity to what we would experience, during the landing mission. So we're gonna take all those objectives and pour it into the design, but I can't tell you the orbit yet.
Our next question will come from Kristen Fisher with The Endless Void.
Hi there. So I think my question's for the administrator. We've talked a lot about the Artemis 2 crew, but how about the rest of NASA's astronauts? I mean, they've now got this kind of exciting bonus mission that they could be assigned to. How did you all inform them about these changes, and how soon after Artemis 2 returns do you all anticipate naming the Artemis 3 crew? Thanks.
So I've shared this, this program change, this direction change for achieving the lunar landing with the Artemis 2 crew. I've also had a chance to speak with leadership from the astronaut office. I don't think anyone was surprised. Like I said, there's no one who comes to work at NASA that forgot their history book. They know how we got there before. I'd also say generally astronauts prefer to be in space as often as possible, so this is probably welcome news. I think everybody is pretty supportive in this direction. In terms of the Artemis 3 astronauts, like I said, we're not going to get ahead of ourselves on this. Artemis 2 is coming up first. We're going to use this time to kind of go through mission design with our HLS providers. What do we think is achievable? What are the most pressing objectives? I think obviously high level, we know what will help buy down risk for the landing. And then you assign a crew that gives you the best chance of success based on those objectives. I hope you get to know them well, cheer them on, support them, and then meet the next crew shortly thereafter.
Our next question will come from Joey Roulette with Reuters News.
Hey, thanks. Question for Amit and Jared, whoever wants to answer. Just real quick, is the exploration upper stage canceled? And if so, do you expect to compete or sole source its replacement? And then kind of more broadly, this new test mission and a new SLS upper stage and doing on-orbit refueling and all that seems like a lot of work to do in the next 2 years before a moon landing. And so I think that begs a lot of questions, but mainly what is the acceleration plans from SpaceX and Blue Origin, and when will that be baked into this architecture? Thanks.
Okay, so I'll go back to, we're not talking about contractual issues. We're not going to talk about that. We have the full support of our industry partners to make sure we standardize the configuration and do the right thing. So we'll just leave it at that. How we're going to do this, in terms of the hardware we have available, I think it's also important to recognize, we didn't just decide to do this today without making sure we assess the inventory of the hardware that we have available and the program. We've been talking about this, as the boss said, in the program for a while, just to make sure, because we understand the risk profile. We have a unique confluence of support and vision and leadership that enables us to do it now, which is why we're doing it now. But to be clear, we rolled out a V3 Starship just yesterday. CSM-3 is in the factory already. It's about to be mated together. The heat shield's ready to go. We're going to mate both of them together. CSM-4 is also being populated with hardware. ESM-4 has been delivered from Bremen. The core stage, the top 4 fits, the core stage number 3 is at Michoud, ready to be shipped here in a couple months. With the engine section for Artemis 3 is already here. The barrels for the Artemis 4 core stage are being rolled. We have all the tools available there. ML2 is 90% complete. It can be configured however we need to. All of that hardware is flowing towards the Cape. We just need to get on with it, and we have to get our workforce side by side with the teams out in the field, put this out there and start working on the hardware, start focusing on the right things, and do it. We can do it. We need the energy, we need the vision, and we need the plan to make sure we go do it, and that's what we're going to go work on.
Next question will come from Jeff Faust with Space News.
Good morning. Question for the administrator. Over the next few years, do you think these changes will result in sort of a net cost savings by standardizing SLS and not developing the Block 1B version, or additional costs by accelerating the pace of missions? And then maybe just a quick question for Lori on Artemis 2. When do you need to roll back out to the pad to be able to support a launch in that early April launch window? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into the P&L here. As you mentioned, there's obviously some puts and takes. If you standardize the vehicle, not every one of them again is a work of art. You're going to save costs. This is what all of our manufacturers have been asking for. It's why everyone got around this program so quickly. No one likes to do lots of one-offs. Same is applicable for how we want to approach our lunar landing. Like let's define some criteria and template this. This was back to the moon base. And then you can forecast lots of demand to industry so they can get good at what you need them to do. So everyone, I'd say, is pretty aligned on that. Now, at the same time, we're also asking people to work faster. We're talking about hiring and bringing in workforce. So there are areas where we expect savings as a result of this approach. There are areas we expect to spend more. We do believe that we have the resources available to achieve this. I guess leave it at that. Yeah.
And as far as the rollout question, we are working diligently to make the changes that I mentioned at the beginning, the work that needs to be done within the VAB. We will need, at least, a week and a half or so-ish out at the pad to prepare for launch. I'll certainly provide an estimated rollout date when we have that available.
Next question will come from Micah Maidenberg with the Wall Street Journal.
Hey, good morning. Maybe for the administrator, could you explain a little bit how the new Artemis plan was put together? Was this something that was on the shelf when you started or brought in with you or came up after starting? Is there a person who's like kind of the brainchild for this plan? Thanks.
Yeah, I'd say that this was, we gravitated towards this very quickly. And, look, obviously, again, it's a huge team effort, but when Amit and I started discussing this subject, he said, we have a plan. So again, there's a lot of people here at NASA didn't lose their history books, understand the right way to go about achieving, an incredibly challenging objective like this. Now, if there is, as Amit has also pointed out, we are in a situation now where between a national space policy that aligns whole of government, congressional appropriations, and the plus-ups from the One Big Beautiful Bill, we can act on a plan that gives us the highest probability of success.
We'll take our next question. Up here in the front row.
Hi, Cameron Schwartz with the Launchpad Network. Thank you for your time and all the updates today. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I did want to ask about the increased cadence and what sort of mission profiles that unlocks for you guys. And do you expect SLS to kind of be a big part of building the moon base?
Yeah, so I think we like the boss said, we're going to use all the hardware we have to achieve these missions. We're going to put the objectives together as we've decided. It's pretty clear. We have to be able to demonstrate in-space activity, the launch cadence, reliable Earth ascent, reliable lunar descent, reliable lunar ascent, surface operations. All that has to be demonstrated, right? So we're going to put those objectives into the plan. We have scoped that out already because that was the kind of end state here. But what we're trying to do is put them into manageable chunks so we can actually fly more quickly, because that pace, that cadence is what really will lead to reliability and safety, and that's what we need to do. Now, we have the hardware we have. We're going to do everything we can to utilize it to the maximum extent, and then, as we said, we have all of industry supporting this, and so whatever hardware we have going forward, we're going to take advantage of to provide that regular cadence.
Next question will come from Marcia Smith with Space Policy Online.
Thanks so much.
I'm assuming that you have briefed this to the relevant people in Congress. I'm wondering what the reaction is, especially to your decision to eliminate the Block 1B and the Block 2 of SLS, which was part of the 2010 NASA Authorization Act. So is Congress behind this as well?
As I mentioned, we try not to have we try to maintain a no surprises policy here at NASA. To do the near impossible takes the contributions from everyone. We want to be very aligned before we go public on a matter like this. So we've spoken to industry. Can you meet the demand? The answer is yes. We've certainly spoken to all of our stakeholders on the Hill. They all understand that this is the path forward. And I would say I don't think I heard a single objection on these subjects. Like, everyone understands what's at stake here. I mentioned before, we don't have a lot of schedule margin here. The implications of coming up short go well beyond space. I mean, this does, this is, America in the 1960s, you get to the moon, you do what no one thought was possible. It sends a message. I wonder what else they're capable of doing. You come up short, it sends the opposite message of where else could something be broken. I think everyone understands that. The fact that industry got behind this, I think, makes it very easy for our very supportive partners in Congress to get behind it. And honestly, they helped enable us in this regard through the Working Family Tax Cut Act, through the One Big Beautiful Bill. That is giving us the resources to be able to undertake this. And I will just say again, all the national security implications of actually meeting an objective as important as getting to the moon and building a base aside, and the competition associated with it. There is simply a right and wrong way to go about doing this. Launching every 3 years and changing massive changes in the configuration of the vehicle is not a recipe for success. And again, I think all our stakeholders and all our partners understand that.
Next question. In the back in the green.
Good morning, Melanie Holt, WFTV. And really, I'm looking for a clarification. You've made a lot of major announcements in terms of these Artemis updates. Artemis 3 specifically, is the goal still a lunar landing, or has that mission profile somehow changed?
Artemis 3 will be a rendezvous with one or both landers in low Earth orbit in 2027. So we're basically pulling in Artemis 3 and recognizing just the reality that going right from a free return around the moon to landing on it is too big of a gap. And we cannot accept the flight rate of a vehicle this important and complicated every 3 years. So we're going to launch in a year from now, in 2027. Again, start taking down risk for the eventual landing. So Artemis 3 will be a rendezvous in low Earth orbit with one or both landers. And then Artemis 4 and Artemis 5, we will endeavor to have 2 opportunities in 2028 to attempt a landing.
Just to maybe help, because I know folks are trying to process, the Artemis campaign is a test program. Okay, and we talk a lot about these all-up tests of SLS Orion and the missions where we put the crew on it. We are doing tests at the component level, at the assembly level, all over the country all the time. And I want you guys to start thinking about that aspect of it. That's what we're doing. So these are very important tests, these flights. But every single one of these tests is important. We're going to do an uncrewed demonstration with the landing missions. We're going to do, right now we have a Mark 1 Blue Origin lander in the chamber at Johnson. We're doing human-in-the-loop testing with the Axiom suits right now. That is also contributing to this end state, right? So when you guys think about this, how we're doing it, and if you want to, we're not going to over-specify at each junction what goes in each particular flight. What we're trying to tell you is we are thinking about this now as an integrated test plan. Those test objectives have to be achieved as incrementally and as successfully as possible at every step. Build on that learning at each subsequent step to eventually lead to the ultimate objectives, which are set out in the policy and the direction we've been given.
We'll just say we do have a couple infographics that are going to come out and help, because we do recognize this is a little bit of a change, so you can at least visualize what we imagine an Artemis 3 and 4 and 5 mission will look like.
We have time for one more question. That'll be from you in the white there.
Yes, Bert Dick from the National Space Society. This is all very exciting, as the administrator mentioned about the loss of muscle memory after a launch every 3 years. I see the same impact on public perception, because a lot of the public wasn't even aware of what's going on here. Do you see this as a byproduct, a good opportunity to enhance the public awareness and public engagement and public enthusiasm about the Artemis program?
Well, for sure. I mean, we have no doubt. It's mentioned many times that it's a different environment than the 1960s. There's more than 3 channels on a TV, so capturing people's attention at times can be challenging. I have no doubt when Artemis 2 takes flight, the world will take notice to that. It's going to be an exciting, it's going to be the most historic mission, human spaceflight mission, more than a half century. But yes, how do you maintain that momentum? How do you keep the public engaged on it? Well, certainly flying every 3 years isn't the right approach to that. So, nor is it, as I mentioned before, even technically the right strategy to achieve something as extraordinary as a lunar landing. So, I am certainly hopeful for all the operational technical benefits that come with this new approach, but I do believe it helps keep the public engaged, which again, that's fundamental to what we do. We want to see a lot more kids dressing up as astronauts on Halloween. Inspiring the next generation to take us a lot farther than the moon is part of the plan.
That'll conclude today's news conference. Thank you to all of the media who joined us and for your continued coverage of America's return to the moon. As a reminder, you can follow along with the mission at nasa.gov/Artemis. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Wow. Dude, I got Give me a second to collect my thoughts, dudes. I am just... We literally had this conversation yesterday when I was playing Winter Car. Maybe he was lurking the stream. Good. I don't care. Lurk the stream. Dude, take my ideas. I don't care. So, guys, the long story short is that they're refactoring SLS architecture to increase launch cadence. This includes moving Artemis 3 forward to 2027. You're moving Artemis 3 forward to 2027, and Artemis 3 is no longer a lunar landing. Artemis 3 is going to be a low Earth orbit rendezvous proximity operations and docking mission with an SLS Block 1. It will go to an HLS lander, 1, maybe 2, in space. Who knows? Depends. Depends on what happens with the landers. Artemis 4 and 5 have moved forward from 2029 and 2030 to both of them in 2028. 2 SLS missions, 2 times a year. 10-month launch cadence between Artemis 4 and Artemis 5. Post Artemis 4 and 5, or post Artemis 3, Artemis 4, 5, and all subsequent SLS architectures will include a refactored SLS architecture. Meaning, well, they didn't say it, but it was heavily implied that the EUS is toast. Good. I hated that upper stage. I couldn't stand it. The only reason I liked it is because it was being built, and apparently it's just a box, so they can get bent. All right? Screw your box, okay? Now, that begs the question. What is the revised architecture? Now, they can't talk about it. They can't talk about it because the contracts haven't been... If you talk about sourcing an upper stage for a revised architecture before the contract happens, it could be viewed as a conflict of interest, and you could get fired. Like Doug Lavero, about 8 years ago, did something like this and got canned from NASA, if you guys remember. So what does this mean for the heat shield? Well, weather guy, it means that Artemis 3 is a low Earth orbit mission. A low Earth orbit mission is a great way to get flight data on your heat shield before you test it with people on board for your revised heat shield architecture. Great. Low Earth orbit test. Perfect. Apollo 3 is Apollo 7. No, it's much more like Apollo 9. So, okay, hold on. I got a message. My freaking inbox is exploding. Hang on. We may have a visitor. Hello?
I'm here.
Hey, Ryan. What's up, man?
Oh, not much, right?
Not much. Guys, we got Ryan Weber from NSF on the stream here. Dude, are you happy with this? I'm happy with this. This is great.
Oh, I mean, this is what they should have done before.
Well, yeah, we've been only saying this for years.
Right. This is what they should have done before. I mean, my only question, and I found it funny. It's like, okay, hey, all right, we're gonna increase this cadence. That's awesome. We're gonna change upper stages. That's awesome. Wait, which upper stage are you gonna use? I don't know. How are you gonna increase the cadence? I don't know. I'm like, okay, I love the plan.
I think
but it feels like a concept of a plan.
Yeah, they haven't fleshed out the con ops because it's if it's contractual and they're going for rapid procurement, they can't say anything until the contracts are out, right? Like that was my theory. That's why they were vague. But dude, like at least Amit and Jared were they threw us a bone here. Like Amit heavily implied that the EUS is toast. Like I don't think he could have laid it on
so many words.
Yeah, I don't think he could have laid it on any thicker, dude, to be honest with you. Like I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Hey.
In terms of easy replacements, I can think of two options off the top of my head.
Noogles.
And has to come from New Glenn. Yep.
Noogles.
Basically. Like I mean, I know like
Discovery.
The second stage would be really, really nice for this. That would it would be way better than the EUS. It'd be more powerful. And still it would have a little bit less ISP, but yeah, it'd still be better.
Yeah. GS3, Glenn Stage 3, so the third stage that New Glenn is working on for their 9x4 rocket, that's a good guess.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to hold out and be the ever optimist, and I say GS2. GS2.
I hope it's GS2. It'd be better.
That would be closer to an Earth departure stage. That would be mint. Especially the GS2 stage that's able to loiter. Like Ryan, they were talking about that. Like Blue has been working on that heat shield thing, right? They've been working on the heat shield for their transfer vehicle. Can you imagine GS2 being used as your Earth departure stage, deploying its heat shield with Orion attached to it and a lander, and being able to do the circularization in low lunar with GS2 with boil-off mitigation, and then you land on the moon with your lander, and then Orion in low lunar orbit has enough delta V to jump out of low lunar if you use the stage for circularization to get home. That's what I'm hoping for, dude.
The other part that goes along with this, and what I wish that they did, and this kind of goes back to the initial architecture of the program as a whole, is, and this is not a slight against the European Space Agency. They've done a fantastic job building it, but dear Lord, you need a better service module. More capabilities. Like you're increasing this cadence and everything, and you're still gonna have to deal with this dinky thing. I think this program, this is better architecture for the program. We'll see how well Boeing does to increase their ASLS core stage production. I am not incredibly hopeful. It is Boeing, not even remotely hopeful at all in them. I'm going to be entirely honest. They have had so many utter failures lately, and it's not even just spaceflight; it's defense and commercial. I really don't have faith that they can accurately.
So
okay,
let me ask you a question. Do you think Jared and Amit were adamant that all contractors and all stakeholders in this, Congress and all the people that they use for procurement, right, for procuring stuff from, were good with this plan? Do you think that? Okay, say you're Boeing. Say you're a Boeing executive right now, all right? I wouldn't envy you, but say you are. If NASA came at you and said, look, get rid of the EUS program. If we amicably agree to get rid of the EUS, but I give you a block buy for 20 core stages, would you go for that? See what I mean? They're sweetening the pot, dude.
Here's the thing, but NASA also needs to put it in there. You got to up your production cadence. You got to significantly increase your production cadence in order to match this. Because what you want, you want A3 for next year. Core Stage 3 isn't fully built yet. Like I know it's next year, but we're a year out and it's not done yet. Like,
yeah,
I don't remember how far along. I don't even think it's all mated together yet.
It's not
let
mated.
Alone
the MPS is working on integration. It could be done sooner rather than later, though. But anyway, continue.
But then okay, the next year you want to have 2 core stages, 2.
Dude, freaking send it. Let's rock and roll, man. Put Michoud to work.
Okay, Boeing, you need to go.
That's what I mean.
They're gonna have to go. Because they've taken like 2 years to build the core stage right now. They're gonna have to build 2 in about a year and a half, 2 years.
Dude, is it bad if I think that I mean, I know people that work on the core stage, and I will bet you dollars to donuts they are gung-ho about this, dude.
More work.
Bingo.
More hours, more money.
Bingo, baby. That's what I'm saying,
for
man.
Boeing and for Boeing, if NASA uses and that's the other thing too. But maybe Boeing doesn't lose any money off of this. Maybe they gain a little bit more money because, of course, you probably maybe block by more SLS core stages, and then not only that, all the money from the EUS goes in. But the more thing I'm really curious about, and if they can really do that production, then awesome. Then more core stages.
Let's go.
And then of course you got to get more RS-25s. So you got to ramp up the testing and production of RS-25s because right now I think it takes like 2 years to build a single RS-25, or it's like a year and a half or something. It's a ridiculously long time to build it. So Rocketdyne's going to have to hurry up on that one.
Well, they're testing RS-25Es, but they're going to have to ramp up. They have to ramp.
Oh, yeah, because you're at this rate. At the rate that Jared wants this to happen at, which if you set this architecture in, it'll stay even through the next administration at this rate.
Please.
It won't change. You would look like an idiot to cancel it straight off. So you keep up that production, keep it going. I cannot wait to see contracts for the new stage. And then of course Bechtel is going to have to modify the mobile launcher for whatever stage they get because they don't know what stage they're going to get right now, so they don't know what modifications they need to make to the launcher. I guess Bowl is canceled too. Although if I were to be, well, here's the thing: is all blocks canceled? Is Block 2 gone?
I don't think Block 2 is gone.
Is
go
Block 2 modified with the new stage but using the Bowl boosters?
Dude,
I think that's a question no one asked. What's Block 2 doing right now?
Yeah, that is a good question. That's what I would have asked. Yeah.
Because
they probably would have said we don't know.
The first bowl test didn't exactly go the great.
Sucked.
And then not only that, Northrop Grumman, Vulcan, it's not really been working that great with SRBs at the moment.
Yeah, they're not doing too good.
But I think that is a missed question to ask is Block 2 still going to happen? Basically they keep flying this it's a modified Block 1 with a new upper stage. So it's still Block 1B, I guess, because it's not technically Block 1 anymore. I do find it funny they call it a standardized Block 1. Yeah, but if you use a different upper stage, it's not Block 1 anymore. It's a different rocket. So maybe you call this Block 2 and then you call the one with the bull boosters Block 3. What? I don't know.
So, Ryan, where my mind's going is how many casings do we have left? How many SRB casings does Northrop Grumman have left? They only had till Artemis 3, right? If I'm remembering correctly. They only had out till Artemis 3, so
because Bowl boosters weren't supposed to come in till Block 2, and that was supposed to be like Artemis 6 or 7.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
a Phillips loss question.
Honestly, if it was me, I would get Northrop Grumman to test those BOLE. That's the replacement boosters once they run out of shuttle boosters, guys, for SLS.
I want to point you to a picture here.
What's up?
If you check in that general chat there, you scroll up a little bit.
The upstairs general?
Yeah. It's something that Jake posted. It's from NASA. They posted a picture. It's Artemis. It shows Artemis 2, 3, and then 4, 5, and 6 with dots, if you see it. It's a
Is
little
this
picture graphic.
part of the infographic that Jared was just talking about?
Uh-huh. Well, take a look at the take a look at the stage that's under Orion, under Artemis 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, Jared, you beautiful motherfucker. Holy shit. Sorry, excuse my language.
That looks like Centaur. Almost. Kind of looks like Centaur 5, but it also might be a GS.
I think that's GS3, if you really want my honest opinion. I don't think a Centaur can hold Orion up. The balloon, it would need a forward load reactor like on Atlas 5, 550. Or, everybody says put Centaur up there, the balloon tanks wouldn't be able to handle a fully fueled service module and Orion on top of it without a load reactor. It's just not, it's not in the cards, man. I mean, that's just my opinion. Could be wrong. But that does appear to be a 5-meter twin engine upper stage.
Also,
which is nuts, dude.
Oh yeah, that's.
Here,
it also means that they can keep making the. They don't have to change the launch stage vehicle adapter. I think that's also one of the things they don't want to have to do is change that, because changing that means you have to redesign it, and then that's another thing that you got to redesign. Oh man, they do have the short. Actually, they don't have the shorter sticks. I was looking at the HLS launcher.
Yeah, it's the long chopsticks.
Yeah, it's the long chopsticks, I think. Yeah. Yep.
Dude, my hot take.
It is with a Block 3 booster, though. They actually do have a Block 3 booster with an HLS on there. It is kind of funny because awesome. I don't know if you looked at all the EIS paperwork. It's always the 2019, 2018 Starship that they show.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, they actually updated the freaking infographics for a change.
But I do love the change to, okay, yeah, Artemis 2, we're going to do basically Apollo 8. Artemis 3 is going to be Apollo 9. And they want that, summer of next year at least. If you're SpaceX, you need to capitalize on this and make sure Block 3 works. Yeah. As the works, because here's the other plus thing with doing this, with doing Artemis 3 in low Earth orbit, you don't have to do tanker flights for Artemis 3. So you don't need a depot ready right away. You don't need all those tankers ready right away, and you don't need your cadence high ready away. You just need a working HLS to dock with.
Yep.
So it helps SpaceX flesh out their
ConOps,
their rendezvous and docking for refueling operations, depots, and everything. It gives them another year to do it. Well, not really, because they were going to do it in 2028 anyway, so it doesn't really give them any more time. But it definitely also means that a habitable version of HLS has to be ready a year earlier than original, because, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is awesome. I am like 100% okay with this. I'm totally good with it.
What I want to know now.
Yeah.
You got let's see if HLS, Starship HLS is ready, and if Blue Moon Mark II is ready. Do they launch and stay in Leo? They rendezvous and dock with, say, Starship first. Mm-hmm. They test it out. They test the systems out. They maybe undock and then redock to test that, kind of like what they did with Apollo 9.
Yep.
And maybe they do an EVA too. Maybe they test that kind of stuff. And then they undock from that, and then they go rendezvous with Blue Moon Mark II and do the same entire thing. Or do you not want to dock that many times on a mission? Do they dock with both and test them both and then go, okay, well, we're ready. Let's now go to 2028. Because if you're doing 2 landings in 2028, assuming it all works out, The first landing is Starship HLS. The second landing is Blue Moon, because Artemis 5 was Blue Moon, or Artemis 4 was technically Blue Moon, but because it was a crewed and then an uncrewed and then a crewed.
So here's my hot take. Yes, they will do rendezvous with both landers in 2027. Now, chat, that's a very complicated mission. Doing two rendezvous proximity operations, that's really complicated. But here's the thing, Ryan, hear me out. You go to these Artemis 4, 5, and 6 missions. You go to, Orion docking in rectilinear halo orbit. I mean, there's no gateway on here, but they're still opting for an LOR architecture, right? Where you have to rendezvous with the lander out in lunar orbit. Orion is going to be doing multiple dockings and undockings. That is a good thing to test if you're going to do a LEO Artemis 3 mission. Now, here's the other thing. I mean, you said that it affords them time, right? It affords them time to, not have to worry about prop transfer and stuff. Here's the thing. I think that those landers, the Blue Moon Mark II lander and the Starship HLS that are going to be used on Artemis 3 are the landers that were in the contracts for their uncrewed landing demonstrations. Think about it. Now,
that's the other problem with that.
Are they going to do it, though? That's the thing.
That's the other thing, is I think that means you need to make another both will have to make another lander and then do it. I think you still need to do an uncrewed landing with these things, especially. I think both need to still do an uncrewed landing. I know they didn't do that during Apollo, but I think
it's part of the contract,
it's part of the contract. Otherwise, unless you change it. But I honestly wouldn't mind seeing alongside the Leo rendezvous a uncrewed landing from both of them, and then you do the crewed landing if it's able to. That's the other thing, is can they do all that within 2 years? Can Blue make them any Blue Moon Mark IIs? I don't know what their factory looks like. Can SpaceX do that? Maybe. I'll go with maybe.
So
they should be able to.
Where's this graphic from, Philly? This is from the infographics that NASA released. So, Ryan, hear me out here. How about Orion and Artemis 3 docks to both of these landers, and both of the landers demonstrate loiter capability after that, and then once they're up there demonstrating loiter capability, you refuel them and use them for your demo at the end of 2027. Think about it, right? That makes sense.
Oh, yeah, you could do it that way too.
Yeah, demonstrate the loiter.
You could do the whole rendezvous dock with both of them, and then both get refueled and then sent and do your uncrewed landing with both of them, and then that's you could do that too.
That's a good idea.
And they could sit in low Earth orbit. If you put them at like 600 kilometers, they're not really going to lose any orbit, even if you take 2 months to get up to them.
Yeah.
2 months to refuel them or something.
So that gives you a rendezvous proximity operations demo when the things are unfueled in a relatively safe state, and then you go and fill them up and you test your filling operations, right? And if the thing blows up, all right, good, it just deorbits. It'll just come back down. This is really smart, dude. This is good architecture. I'm really happy with this.
Because I'm thinking here, because I don't remember how many refuelings Blue Moon's going to need. And the refueling architecture for New Glenn, or for that, isn't even remotely done yet. Of course, Starship isn't either. Like, they're not even close. You saw 39 roll out yesterday. They've only got housings for 2 drogue ports for it, and that's all they've got right now.
Well, dude, I think that SpaceX, against my better judgment and what we've talked about in flame trenches and stuff, I think they slowed down because you said it yourself. Block 3 has to work. It can't not work. If it doesn't work, we're kind of boned.
Oh, they're screwed if it doesn't work.
Yeah, they have to be careful. So they're going a little bit slower with it, but yeah.
The problem is if they go too slow, they don't get as many missions in a single year, and that's kind of the trade-off they're at right now.
Yep. They're in a weird spot, but hey, this kind of stuff, this is where you separate the men from the boys. Let's see what you got.
It's really one of those things, because I think New Glenn will get maybe 6 to 7 launches this year, maybe. it really depends on how because I think they can turn around their stages quick enough. Question is how many boosters can they make and how quickly can they turn around, and how many flights do the really early boosters last? That's the other thing too. I think they'll be able to get several flights this year. The thing with Starship is I know they have a ton of nose cones set up, but they've got 39 and they got 40, which just needs its aft section. They've got Booster 19, Booster 20, which still is, its LOX tank still isn't fully stacked. Not to mention you have to stack 21, 22, 23, 24, and they'll hopefully start catching and reusing them 20 and on, assuming 19 goes well. And then, of course, as Elon literally said last night, they'd likely try, assuming 39 and 40 are perfect splashdowns, they will catch 41, or they will attempt to catch 41. So we're back to the back-to-back splashdowns thing, which makes sense. You want to verify you're working, especially with the new architecture in it. I think because the flap testing they're doing, they've changed some flap stuff, so that's why they're waiting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's doable, Ryan. That's 3 to 4 flights. 3 to 4 flights this year with Starship, totally manageable. That's totally manageable. That's
I think they can get
a thing.
6. I think they can get 6 flights this year with 1 out of the Cape, because you need to try to get 1 out of the Cape by the end of the year.
Max Q.
Okay. And yeah.
It only takes so much winning.
So if everything goes well for both of those programs, you enter 2027 with a working Block 3 and a working, somewhat upgraded, very likely upgraded New Glenn after having flown a few times. They figured the things out. They've refined it. I don't know where they're going to launch Blue Moon Mark 1 this year. We'll see how well that goes. And then, of course, they'll have to build Blue Moon Mark 2 and then try to launch it next year then for Artemis 3, if they do both of them. For SpaceX, if they're really going to try to make HLS for Rendezvous, they need to have a fully built HLS by January of next year. If they want to do summer of 2027, they need to have a fully stacked HLS variant ready for testing at Starbase by January of next year.
I agree.
And then they cryo test it, they static fire test it at Starbase. I don't know how you're testing. Maybe you test the lunar engines, maybe you don't. If you plan on maybe using it to do an uncrewed landing, then you test the landing engines somehow, some way. That'd be interesting to watch that at Massey's.
Yeah, baby.
And then you transport it to the Cape and you launch it out of 39A, because that's a mission that has to go out of 39A. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they don't have even with the updated EIS for Brownsville, they can't get at the inclination that you need to get to the moon. You can only get at that from the Cape for now.
For what's the inclination you need for that again?
Well, because they're going around the Van Halen belt.
Yeah.
You have to launch not ISS inclination, but yeah, you have to go into a moderate high inclination to get around the belts. You don't want to go right through the radiation belts.
Yeah, so they would have
during Apollo. They got to go around them.
So yeah, that begs the question on what inclination all this and what altitude all this is going to take in. And I bet they would just want to try to steer clear of the ISS and everything. But I'd be kind of curious.
I would do it if it was me. I'd put because the landers are tests. I would put this into So here's my hot take. I would put this into an eccentric orbit. Think Polaris Dawn, something with your perigee low. So if something goes wrong, right, you can dispose of the lander real fast, right? But also something an intermediate apogee. Probably if it was me, I would simulate EFT1 just so they can get good data on that heat shield, Orion's updated heat shield for Artemis 3.
The problem with doing that orbit is HLS will need refuels to do that. Definitely Starship HLS will need refuels to do that.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. There was an FCC filing at one point, and we haven't had any updates from SpaceX on the whole thing, or NASA for that matter. But it really does look like that HLS will have to go into LEO, do a refuel with a depot, go into a high Earth orbit, do a refuel with another depot, and then finish the TLI burn. I don't know if that's still the case. It depends on, I guess, the dry mass of the dang thing at this point in time.
Yeah.
But I will say, as I last night I stared at the pictures, and this morning I've stared at the pictures of S-39. Unless they can shave down some of that mass, man, they've added a lot more mass to that ship. There's a lot more reinforcements all over. There's like 32 COPVs on the ship right now.
Let's go. Hopefully they don't pop. Hopefully they don't pop.
Like, they're gonna have to shave some mass off. We don't really know, I guess, what it's gonna need, but I think in order to stick HLS into any kind of eccentric orbit like that, you'll need to refuel it a little bit. Which, I mean, all you may need to do is launch like a couple of tankers, dock, and refuel. That shouldn't be that hard to do out of well, the problem is that do it out of the Cape, unless you seriously dogleg it out of Brownsville, which I don't know how the heck you do that.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it, dude, you can handle, because the Cape is at 27.5 degrees north. If you launch out of 39A, a 27 degree inclination is enough. It's going to be close, but that's enough to skirt the belts. You're gonna be going through a pretty hefty radiation, dose, but 27 degrees. So due east out of the Cape, if you launched in the right phase, you could probably get around the belts that way. If it has to be any higher, you're going to start running into problems where Starship has to fly over Tampa and Orlando to get to a higher inclination orbit, more than 27. You know what I mean? But you should be, now that I'm thinking about it, you could go due east out of the Cape, and that should be enough.
You just reminded me, I forgot to download that.
What, the
that
picture?
The new EIS thing.
Oh, yeah.
For that, I have every single EIS that Starship has ever done, and I forgot to download that one.
Oh, how dare you? So, okay. So we think the EUS, like, I think we're both in concurrence that the EUS is toast. I don't think.
I think the EUS is done and dusted. It's good riddance. It's not great. I never understood why you did. I understand hydrolocks for the upper stage. I do. That makes sense. But RL-10s, that's the best you could come up with.
Yeah,
really?
the Apollo. There's a reason why the Apollo program did away with them, because the characteristic energy involved. The Apollo program was originally was going to use a cluster of RL-10s for the third stage on the Saturn V, guys, and they refactored it. They said no, that's a bad idea. So they made the S4B, which is a single J2. It simplified the design, and you need a high energy upper stage to do lunar exploration. We're talking something that can move 45 metric tons to a 3-day transfer orbit out to the moon. That is a very, very energy demanding architecture. Like, you need high energy stages. That's been my problem with the EUS the entire time. The EUS has insanely high delta V, right? But it doesn't have the thrust to weight ratio to handle the high energy orbit. So, okay, like, Ryan, just give me a second. I'm going to explain this. What do I mean by high energy orbit? Okay, so a stage can have delta V, right? So delta V is your change in velocity. That's the range of the stage, right? And then you have TWR, right? Thrust to weight ratio. If you have a higher thrust to weight ratio, basically your engines make more thrust, right? You can have high delta V and low thrust to weight ratio, which is what the EUS has. Or you can have high thrust, high delta V. Now, with high thrust delta V, right, you will be able to do a translunar injection orbit. So shooting yourselves out to the moon. Now, here's the thing. If you don't have the TWR that you need, if you have lower thrust to weight ratio, you need to increase duration of burn. And what happens is, well, the Earth's spinning and the moon is orbiting around the Earth, right? If you are not able to expend a certain amount of delta V in a certain period of time, you're not going to be able to do an efficient TLI burn, all right? You're going to have to use O-berth, right? And you're going to have to do 2 to 3 burns. Now, see, that's not necessarily a problem unless you have people on board, right, that have a finite amount of oxygen, right? You can only scale your ECLS so much, right? Because mass is always a constriction here, right? So the higher energy upper stages are what is, I've always said that that's what is needed to sustainably explore the moon. Because if you don't have an upper stage that's capable of moving anything expediently out to the moon with a high energy transfer, so a high amount of delta V that gets burned off in a short period of time, you're not gonna be able to sustainably explore anything. The EUS is insufficient thrust to weight ratio to be able to shoot an Orion and whatever's in its universal stage adapter out to lunar orbit in any expedient amount of time. It's just not going to work that way. You need a higher energy upper stage, a stage that basically has got some get up and go behind it. That's the gist of it, guys. So TWR for acceleration, delta V for fuel efficiency. Yes, Nader, but you can do both of those things. They're not in space. They're not, you'd think that like, okay, you have a car with 1,000 horsepower. It's going to get terrible gas mileage. Well, the thing about it is in space is you can have great gas mileage and good delta V because if you use hydrogen or methane or something, they're not at odds with each other. If you're using Carolox for your upper stage, yes, you have that problem, right? Because it doesn't burn very efficiently. But hydrogen burns ultra good, right? So Nader, like, let me explain this. If you had like a C8 Corvette, right, and you converted that 5.3 flat plane to run on liquid hydrogen, I don't know how you'd do that, but if you could theoretically give it like 800 horsepower and it'll get like 50, 60 miles to the gallon. That's absolutely a thing. In space, you can do that. It's not necessarily at odds with each other, right? But generally, right, you can have high delta V. That's your range, remember? So miles per gallon, right? You can have high delta V and high thrust to weight ratio. That will get you there faster. And that going fast is the name of the game with spaceflight. If you can go faster, you can get there quicker. And there are other mission constraints, right, that are going to denote that you need to get there fast. That's why they made the S4B for the Apollo program. Because the S4, the original S4 that flew on the Saturn I, didn't have the kick to be able to move the CSM and the LEM out there in any expedient amount of time. They would have ran out of oxygen, right? So you can do both of those things in space, right? You can have a high delta V, so long range, right? Long range, so to speak, and high thrust to weight ratio. It's absolutely a thing. Who's on call? I have Ryan Weber with me over from NSF. Yeah.
Hi there.
This is freaking great. So here's my okay, so EJ's hot take time. So I think that NASA is going to take ML2 and use it for the standardized Block 1 configuration for SLS, and I think they're going to give ML1 to Blue Origin, and I think New Glenn 9x4 is going to be integrated in High Bay 1 with ML1. I think that's going to happen.
What?
Think about it, dude. This is EJ's hot take time.
That's a significant mod to ML1 to get it to work for Methalox over Hydrolox.
Yeah, but also at the same time, think about this for a second. ML1 can't take the weight of SLS because of those solid rocket boosters. That's specifically what ML2 was built for, to be able to handle the weight of the boosters and not deform. Think about it. I thought originally that they'd give ML2 to Blue Origin, but that doesn't make any sense. You want if you're going for a standardized SLS block configuration, right? Something that's going to ensure high flight cadence and stuff, having Mobile Launcher 2, which is able to carry the weight of SLS, makes a lot more sense. So what do you do with ML1? Well, give it to New Glenn 9x4. Now, Blue has teased pictures of 9x4 before, Ryan. We've seen them, right? Guess what? I don't see any transporter erector with 9x4. In fact, I don't even see any LC-36 with the 9x4 renders. It's just a picture of the rocket on the pad.
I will state this very clearly, and you know this as well as I do. Renders are not reality.
Yeah, of course.
You know this as well as I do.
Yeah, because that has the long chopsticks on the tower there, which
that's not even the right ship QD arm.
Yeah,
that's like an older style ship QD arm. That's not that's like Tower 1.
Yep.
Pad A.
EUS's exploration upper stage fooled. Yep. Yeah, I totally understand that, but I think that, I mean, dude, that is just my hot take completely out of nowhere. I'm saying it now in the off chance that I may be right. I'll be honest with you, that's just what EJ wants. That's just what EJ wants, but I think that would be a good idea, you know?
You know what would be really cool? You know, if only they could mod ML1. You know, if you want a high flight cadence, how about you have 2 mobile launchers with 2 working crawler transports?
I would be totally okay with that as well. Yep.
Because what? Like, how much... I forget how much heavier Block 1B was supposed to be, and for whatever reason they couldn't mod ML1. Like, the reasoning always seemed like, really, you can't mod that structure? You're telling me you cannot go in there and put structural reinforcements into your mobile launcher and make it better? You're telling me you can't do that?
Well,
like,
you know, with Jared Isaacman there, you know, everything is open season. Like the NASA of the past probably know, right?
I don't even see why how that was ever a thing to begin with. Like, I really don't. Like, oh, it can't handle the weight. Then modify it. Oh, we can't. Why? Like, you're telling me you can't open the thing up, go in there, put more structural supports in it. You know, you're telling me you can't do that? It's just steel. It isn't like it's filled with concrete or whatever. Like, I've never understood that part of that aspect of the mobile launcher. I've never understood that you can't modify it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I mean, they've reinforced it, dude, but because it was deflecting, because it's Ares 1's mobile launcher. It has been reinforced a lot. Which is why I think they would give it to Blue for 9x4. ML1 is perfectly suited for a rocket like that. And I personally don't like, okay, looks of 9x4 aside, I think it looks ridiculous, but it is a good, capable vehicle. I don't think you can put a rocket that big on a transporter erector. That TE would need to be gigantic. It would need to be as big as a freaking mobile launcher.
May I direct your attention to N1?
Don't say N1. Dude, 9x4 is way bigger than N1. It's way bigger.
And for that matter, Energia Buran.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Energia Buran is tiny compared to 9x4. 9x4 is huge. It's bigger than a Saturn V.
This is 2026. We can make something that'll work.
I mean, I don't know. On Florida's terrain, I'm not sure a T that big.
No, everyone said there. You know how many people said that you couldn't dig a flame trench at Massey's or dig a flame trench down in Starbase?
Yeah, of course.
You know how many people did that?
Yeah.
Or you couldn't dig a flame trench at 39A? Well, the reason why they did it above ground was for that reason, but, you know, we've advanced our construction methods over the last, 60 years.
Dude, all right, like, I hate to bring this up, but this is the immediate thing that pops off the top of my head. Man, okay, downtown New York City, they built the Twin Towers, right? The Twin Towers were not small. They built those in the 70s, and you know what they did? They put them in a concrete bathtub because the Hudson and the East River are right there. You're building essentially on wetlands. If we could build skyscrapers that big, like Freedom Tower and the Twin Towers before them, dude, this shit. Yeah, I agree with you. This ain't no problem. We can handle this.
We can make a transporter erector for 9x4. Psst.
But
you could probably make a transporter erector for Starship if you really, really put your mind to it. Not that you would want to. I think their launch infrastructure works fine as it is. At this rate, but that would be kind of nuts. Although Starship really isn't designed to go horizontal, so
dude. But like, see, that's the thing. I think Blue So, okay, call me crazy. The reason why I mean, I am crazy. Like, we know that. Like, we already knew that. But look, I think that Jeff Bezos in Blue Origin, all right? And I mean this, guys, I want to be very clear. I mean this in a very endearing way. I think Jeff wants, I can't prove it in any way, shape, or form. I think he wants that mobile launcher. I think Jeff Bezos, he is a spaceflight historian nut bar. He went and scooped out Apollo 11's F1 engines from the bottom of the ocean. Okay, all right. Think about that for a second. I think history counts a lot for that guy, to that guy. I really do. I mean, look at how, Ryan, cast your mind back to 10 years ago when Blue, when SpaceX got the contract for 39A. Blue was pissed because they wanted 39A. They wanted 39A because of its historic value, and they tried to sue the crap out of SpaceX and the U.S. government. It didn't work, right? I think that Blue is very much after, like, using historic stuff to an extent. I think that's also the reason why they call Space Launch Complex 36, they call it LC-36, because they want it to seem more like LC-39, which is human exploration, right? I very much think that I've noticed patterns with Blue, and I noticed patterns with Jeff. He really values spaceflight history. And once again, I don't speak for the guy. This is just a theory. So I think that Jeff would want 9x4 on ML1, or even a converted mobile launcher platform. Screw it. Just to say he's launched his rockets off of the same thing that a Saturn V launched off of. Just personal theory. I don't know. I don't know the guy. I work on Twitch, which is it's under the Amazon bubble. I get it, but I also very much think that he's after stuff like that. That's my big thing. I think Jeff Bezos wants to see a New Glenn 9x4 roll out on ML1 out of the VAB. I very much think that. And you know what, dude? I appreciate it. I'd be doing the same thing if I was running my spaceflight company. I'd be doing the same damn thing, dude.
You know what's funny is when Jared took over, we all were thinking, oh, they'll fly Artemis 2 and Artemis 3, maybe Artemis and whatnot. Then SLS gets canceled. And I'm like, well, if SLS gets canceled, then New Glenn can take LC-39B and they'll put a HIF like they did at 39A, a transporter erector, and New Glenn flies out of 36. Because, I mean, let's be honest, New Glenn out of 36 would have looked pretty cool.
Out of 39B, right?
39B.
That's right. I got you.
Yeah. But now it's like, okay, so Jared wants to up the production cadence of SLS, which is what would make it a little bit more affordable and a little bit better, money-wise. And then we have more flights, so you fly Orion more. Now, if you can get a better upper stage to it, then you might be able to take some more stuff along with you. Like, I'd love to be able to run the numbers and, like, if you stick like a GS2 or GS3 on it, what's your payload to LEO now? Because they're at like 80, 85, right? Is what they're at the moment.
For Block 1 SLS?
Yeah, Block 1 SLS.
It's something north. It's about 100 tons. It was originally thought to be about 70. Block 1 can move 100. It absolutely can move 100. It's got some kick behind it. People don't realize that, dude. And not only that, the SLS core stage is over-engineered. It's like it can carry 2.5 times the load, I think, if I'm remembering right, of Block 1. It is designed for a bigger upper stage.
Well, yeah, it's designed for the core stage was designed for Block 2 in mind. Was that so they wouldn't have to change the core stage at all? They literally designed it for Block 2 to begin with. It's just the other parts of Block 2 weren't ready. That was the whole point behind the core stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, stick a bigger second stage on it. I just wish we brought J2X's back.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, with Jared doing what he's doing, I don't think anything is off the table, to be honest with you.
How long do you think, if you were to bring in Blue Origin, okay, say you were to bring in the Blue Origin engineers alongside NASA, how long do you think it would take for those two teams to design a brand new stage with J2X's and get it flying? The problem there though is Yeah, I guess not J2Xs because Rocketdyne would take 10,000 years to make them. Maybe that you design a new stage with like a bigger stage, like something the size of the core stage, so you can actually maximize your diameter of the vehicle. That's what I want. And then you basically stick a couple of BE3Us on it. Put like 4 BE3Us on this stage.
Well, hey, what's New Glenn 9x4, dude?
Yeah, just take that stage.
This ain't a coincidence, man. I'm sorry. I don't believe in coincidences here. Like, we know all these contractors talk to each other. We know they do. Blue wouldn't roll out 9x4 unless they saw a future potential need for it. You know what I mean? Because 9x4 is a stopgap to whatever New Armstrong is, right?
Remember when 9x4 came out and we're like, yeah, Orion will just go on 9x4. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Looks like it's gonna stay on SLS, but it might actually use the upper stage for 9x4.
Yeah, dude.
So
I think 9x4 might be a little too big for what SLS is trying to do, to be 100% honest with you. But also at the same time, I think a New Glenn 7x2 upper stage on top of SLS with a 8.4 fairing, right? So Atlas 500s, right? It has the forward load reactor, the CFLR. Do that. You could do that with a Centaur, first of all, and it would be perfect, right? Or you could do that with a New Glenn 7x2 and use the forward load reactor, drastically increasing your payload capacity to be able to utilize the 100 tons that SLS can throw up there. If you manifest 45 tons for the payload and the Orion, right? That leaves you, right? Let's think about this for a second. If SLS launches with 7x2 on board, you're probably looking at a throw of north of 100 tons, right? And you could use 7x2, shielded 7x2 with the lunar transfer architecture that Blue is working on with boil-off mitigation, right? That's probably going to take 60 to 70 tons of that 100, right? I'd say 60, right? That leaves 25 tons for Orion. And so 60 plus 25, that's 85. That leaves you 15 tons for a lander. Guess what, dude? The freaking LEM was about that. Actually, the LEM was a little bit lower than that. I believe the LEM the LEM is 16 tons. Oh, see, dude, this is doable. You could, dude, that architecture, you could use whatever you heard about Blue working on Blue Moon 1.5, right? They're working on Blue Moon 1.5, which is a lander that needs no refueling. That works with that architecture. That works really well with that architecture.
This is like the Newsweek. Stoke just posted that they mated their stage 2 engine to their stage 1 forward module in passive flying colors.
Nice.
It's like Newsweek.
Dude,
we're doing the flame trench before the flame trench.
Yeah, this is a combustion byproducts. That's what I call it when we do flame trench stuff on my channel. It's combustion byproducts. It's the leftovers from the flame trench.
Oh, but yeah, you guys will get a couple other people's talking about this because this changes a lot of things for the Space Coast as a whole. If we're gonna get more common SLS launches, which I mean, I 100% agree, and I think he saw this on the wall with the issues they ran into with the wet dress rehearsal. Like, if you kind of go back to the reasoning behind this, you see the issues during the wet dress rehearsal, you see the issue with the helium right after the fact. It's like, well, yeah, you don't fly a lot. Look at what happened to Delta IV Heavy's pads. They always ran into GSE problems.
Yeah, because
always.
they were designed to launch once a week, and they ended up launching like once a year, and that's not really good for it.
If not even. Like, there's a reason why Falcon 9 almost never has a GSE problem. It's because they launch so much. They use their systems, and they know when a system's about to go bad. And they know how they can fix it. And they keep it up to date.
I mean, dude, it's,
new
GSE, I mean, Ryan, GSE and airplanes are very much like spacecraft and, launch pads. It's the same thing. You know good and well that if you ain't using the GSE for a 737 and you ain't using the 737, that is the absolute worst thing for that
It'll
aircraft,
break.
short of crashing it into the ground. Like,
It'll break.
It will break.
Seriously, you let an aircraft. It doesn't matter what airplane it is. Even cars. With cars.
Oh, absolutely.
You let cars or
I know too well.
airplanes or anything mechanical. If you let it sit without ever using it, and then you try to use it, it'll break. It'll just break because it's not meant to be sitting around. It'll just break.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. I'm so happy with this because that's what SLS needs. It needs to fly more. It doesn't need to fly less. It needs to fly more.
It does seem like they were all pretty gung ho with it, with the plan. Whoever was on the panel to do this, and I would bet that NASA is pretty gung ho to do this rather than just sitting around, because the whole thing with this program was, oh yeah, Artemis 1, 3 years later, Artemis 2, about 2.5 years later, Artemis 3. It was just stupid. It was stupid. It was just dumb to do that. And I think part of that issue too is you put out the contracts for the lunar landers too late, but there's also the caveat to that fact is Starship's not ready and New Glenn's not ready entirely for it. So the launchers for those vehicles weren't ever ready to begin with, even though they did hand out the HLS contracts very late. The problem is the launch vehicles weren't even ready for those things. Starship has a solid chance of having an HLS ready by next year, depending on how Block 3 goes. And I think Blue has a solid chance of getting Blue Moon. I mean, we'll see how Mark 1 goes. I don't know how far along they are with building Mark 2.
I think if I had to guess, they're going to wait on finalizing Mark II's design pending Mark 1's performance. That's what I would do. Like, just get some good data, land something on the moon, even crash it on the moon. Frick it, at least you learned something, and then go from there.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out. What I want to see now is hopefully sooner rather than later, maybe they lay it out during the once Artemis 2 rolls back out and they're getting into launch, or for that matter, maybe it's like after Artemis 2 lands, maybe they have and comes back, maybe they get a press conference going and they go, all right, here's the plan going forward. Here's how Boeing's going to increase their core stage production. Here's the stage we're going to use. Here's the contract for it, and da 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 da. Hopefully, it's all laid out by the time Artemis 2 is done. If not, then I hope it's by like summer of this year, because if you're really going to fly Artemis 3 in summer of next year, you need to name a crew.
Yep. They got to get the ConOps figured out real fast.
There's an 18-month training time.
Yep.
Unless you're only doing a year now, but there was an 18-month training time set for Artemis crews. You're past that if you want to fly in summer of 2027.
Ryan, when did Jared Isaacman get his confirmation? When did that happen? Just out of curiosity. Just.
Oh, I'd have to look.
Yeah, what day did that happen? Hold on. Let me check. December 17th, 2025. Okay.
Wow, he's shaking things up in like 2 months, 2.5 months.
It's awesome, dude. I love it so much.
I'm just going to say this. Imagine him trying to announce this in May, June of 2025.
Oh, it would have been even better, dude.
Well, no. Here's this. It would actually make things a lot weirder for everyone. One, New Glenn has only flown once.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's only flown once, and they're having issues getting to their second flight. This would be right around the time of the 4 consecutive failures for Block 2 of Starship. So you announce that, we're going to do this rendezvous for Artemis 3 in summer of 2027, everyone would have gone and looked, Starship's not going to be ready. They can't even get it to, they can't even get past Seco.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Like, can you imagine if he tried to announce it then? Like, oh, Starship has had 2 successes, and you can see, and if you actually follow the program, you can see all the testing they've done for Block 3. At that point in time, it would have looked like SpaceX would have had absolutely no chance of making that. Now it looks possible.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good thing he announced it around then, but he wasn't confirmed then. But if he had been confirmed right away, it'd been interesting.
Well, the only reason why I ask is because you said 18 months. So did he say when they want to do this in 2027? I would assume Q3 2027. That would be my guess, right?
I would assume at this point, because my guess is they're going to focus on Artemis 2, get that SLS back out to the pad probably like March 12th. That'd be that'd give them 20 days till the opening of the window. Give them enough time, give them about 2 weeks in order to have that FTS buffer. And then I think that gives them what? Yeah, that gives them 20 days or so till April 1st. And that gives them enough time to get out there, probably do a confidence check, get the crew in their 2-week quarantine, assuming everything is good to go, and then launch it, finish the mission, get it back down, and then they focus on announcing the crew for Artemis 3. I think they want to get this mission out of the way at this point, rather than trying to be like, oh, we're going to announce this, but part of me is like, well, why did you announce this now? Why didn't you wait till after Artemis 2 to announce this? Why did you just announced this after rolling the rocket back in?
So that's what I'm getting at, Ryan. I think this was planned. So if you look at when Jared Isaacman got confirmed, it was in December. Okay, December 2025. What's 18 months away from December 2025? June or July of 2027.
Yeah.
When did he say Artemis 3 was going to go? June or July of 2027. That's enough time to train a crew. This was planned.
They probably have a crew already selected.
This was orchestrated,
They haven't
dude.
told us.
It's not a coincidence, man. There ain't no coincidences in this business, dude. You know? This is crazy. So, let me just refresh everybody, guys. So, there was a NASA press conference this morning about 2 hours ago where Jared Isaacman and Amit Kursia, I said his name right. Yes.
Yes. There you go.
Yeah, and Lori Glaze had a press conference talking about refactoring SLS's architecture through Artemis 3, 4, 5, and 6. So Artemis 3 is no longer a lunar landing in 2028. Artemis 3 is a low Earth orbit lander demonstration mission where an SLS will launch Orion in the SLS Block 1 will launch Orion into low Earth orbit, and they will rendezvous with landers with Orion in mid 2027. After that, flight cadence for SLS gets bumped to 2 launches in 2028, demonstrating either lander and landing capability on the moon. After that, SLS 4, 5, and 6 will use what Jared Isaacman described as a standardized Block 1 configuration to improve flight cadence. Now, I'm not 100% sure what that actually means. We don't know yet. But there is a multitude of options on the table here. This is an infographic that NASA released here showing Orion on top of what looks to be a Centaur 5. But that also could be New Glenn Stage 3 that Blue is working on. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure. All I know is that I see New Glenn, SLS. Oh, wait a minute. Yo, Ryan, hold up. I noticed something. Look.
What?
So look at this SLS versus this SLS. That SLS right there is a render of the current Block 1 with the ICPS.
And that one has an extended stage on it.
Oh, baby. Okay.
But Blue Origin reposted Jared's whole thing and said, "Let's go, we're all in."
Yeah,
So,
Dave Limp did. I have that up on the screen right now.
yeah.
Here, hold up. Let me, I'm gonna cue this video on. It's 3 minutes, so just give me a second here. I want to listen to this. I can't play you the audio. I'm sorry, dude. Like, I'm not that cool.
It's fine.
Okay, all right, here we
For
go.
35 years, presidents have called for American astronauts to return to the moon. President Donald Trump took the first astronauts further into space than ever before around the moon on a 10-day mission that will test the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft before returning to Earth. As the plan stands today, shuttle, this is by far the lowest launch cadence in the history of America's space program. The plan is not evolutionary in design, but instead reaches for a fully realized end state without building the foundation required to achieve it. In alignment with President Trump's national space policy and making the absolute most of the
They have until Artemis 8 with casings.
Okay, cool. That's good to know.
I'm talking with Philip. Oh, so yeah, so Bowl would require redesign depending on the new second stage because the ballistics were designed for integrating with EUS.
Yeah, but that's not that much of a redesign if we're refactoring all of SLS in the long run by changing the upper stage, is it? Like, that's not like, I mean, that's that. I don't think that's where we draw the line. They just decided to go with a different upper stage.
It would require redesign, so if SLS wants to fly more than 8 times, Northrop Grumman would have to do some redesign to Bull. So the Bully booster.
Yeah. So Gwen, you're asking over in YouTube chat, what happens if in mid-2027 neither landers are ready for docking operations? The landers don't have to be full fidelity, Gwen. They don't. Think about it. All they have to do is just get it up into low Earth orbit. It doesn't have to have propulsion systems on it. I mean, like main propulsion systems. Ryan and I were talking about it. They don't need to demonstrate filling operations. It's just this is to demonstrate the docking capability, which will buy down the risk because you don't want to dock with a lander for the first time in lunar orbit and screw an entire lunar mission when it doesn't work. This is why Apollo 9 existed in the first place. It's smart. That's a good idea. But remember, These landers don't have to be like full 100% flight fidelity, right? They need to be pretty close. They need to be able to demonstrate to get up into space. But like HLS, for instance, doesn't need to refuel for this proximity operations. They could just throw it up into low Earth orbit and call it a day, right? Like, won't they need life support?
I think. Well, they'll need Eclipse.
They need. Yes, that is one of the things they absolutely do need.
I think it's for the landers. I think Mark II is more of a question mark on how ready it'll be. I think HLS could definitely be a fully fledged. I should say. I think the Starship HLS could definitely be a fully fledged Starship HLS. There could be systems in there that maybe not are 100%. Like, you don't need to put the elevator on it. That doesn't need to be on it. It's a LEO only. And if you're going to do the uncrewed mission, if you're doing an uncrewed mission and event, maybe you do the uncrewed landing as well. I mean, I don't know if you have a way to automate and test that elevator. So if you don't have it on, who cares on that front?
I mean, okay, guys, like Ryan, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like, it's a frigging elevator. All right,
that's true.
It's not like it's a propulsion system or something, dude.
No,
like the elevator is it's simple. It's simple tools. Like I get it, we're using it at 1/6 gravity. That could be a little bit of a difference, but it's an elevator. Like I don't think that's that big of a deal. Like,
but I think Starship HLS could be ready in time. I think.
Yep.
For this, and I mean fully fledged. I mean, whatever's gonna dock with Orion is what they would use to land, kind of fully fledged. The biggest issue with Starship HLS is not the Starship HLS itself. It's the way of getting it there. It's the depots and the tankers. That's the biggest problem, and the reusability. Mm-hmm. The biggest problem is sending tanker after tanker after tanker up to fill up a depot to then dock with the HLS. Those tankers need to be reusable because you can't produce them that fast enough. That's the biggest holding. That's really the biggest thing with HLS. If all they need to do is build a HLS and launch it into LEO, that's easy. That's pretty easy for SpaceX to do.
Yeah,
the hardest part is docking, field transfer, and getting it to the moon. That's the hard part.
Yeah.
And then landing it, of course. It's not everyone. I mean, SpaceX has a world-class GNC team, but landing on the moon is not easy.
Nope. That's why I think that, they're going to throw that HLS up there, and Blue Moon's going to throw that Mark II up there. And after Orion goes to them, they're going to use those for prop transfer and demo landings, right? Like, that's what makes perfect sense. Like, if SpaceX and Blue iron out their concept of operations or ConOps for, what refilling looks like with HLS and with Blue Moon Mark II, and they're already up there in mid-2027, right? You send, that gives you a 6-month time to figure out concept of operations, right? Actually, Ryan, dude, what? Huh.
What?
Okay. All right. So, okay, theory crafting again. So let's just say it's Starship HLS, all right? Say Starship HLS is the one that Artemis 3 goes to, all right? SpaceX uses the latter half of 2027 to figure out filling operations, get that figured out, right? And if that all works fine and dandy, they send that Starship out to land on the moon. And then what happens with Artemis 4, 5, and 6? Maybe you get that demo Starship back up into lunar orbit and have Orion re-rendezvous with it. It's just a thought. You could do the same with Blue Moon Mark II.
No, I was just thinking, because of this change, SpaceX doesn't need, and I say this, they don't need to do their field transfer this year. They could try to do it next year and spend this year focusing on Block 3 and HLS itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that would be one less burden off. I mean, they're still they still have a thing with Block 3, which they're gonna do it. They may still do the target and chaser this year if they're able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
but it isn't maybe as much of a requirement because it's going to be more of a requirement to build and launch an HLS prototype, and get it into low Earth orbit in the next 14 months, 16 months.
I think it's better to do it sooner rather than later. But yeah, they do have some time. I agree.
Because we know that they haven't stopped their Mars plans, but based off of everything, they've pushed their Mars plans at like another transfer window or two ahead, basically.
Yep.
Which, if I'm going to be honest, I know I never really talked to you about this. It makes complete sense for them to have done that.
I've always been
the moon should have been the focus to begin with, because if you build an infrastructure in low Earth orbit and then build it around the moon and then use all that to then go to Mars, it makes a lot more sense because then you have a much more infrastructure to do it off of.
Bingo.
It makes sense to do that way. Going straight to Mars was always kind of okay, we're gonna try it,
risky,
see what happens.
Yeah,
it was always risky.
Yeah.
I think building out your system and you have tons of data on it working, re-entering, all of that, and then you go to Mars.
I agree. Yeah, I've always been moon first. Always. It doesn't make any sense to try and shoot something out to Mars with like a 3 to 5 month transfer window, 2 years on the surface, right? And like 2 year sols on the surface, and then a 3 month transfer back. We don't have environmental control systems that can handle that type of thing in a closed loop system. Not yet, at least. A moon base would be a great place to test that.
Yeah,
maybe Talon. It depends.
The other big thing too with that is also, it's like,
hang on one sec.
You can
shirt off. I'm sweating because I'm getting so excited. Go ahead.
You can test your ecosystems. You can test your nuclear power generation capabilities. You can test how to build your own habitation modules. You can test transferring raw materials to another planetary body using construction equipment to build your own habitation modules and your own mines and all this other stuff. Stuff that you're going to need to learn how to do on Mars, but do it on the moon first, where you're only 3 or 4 days away rather than 6 months away every 26 months. Unless we built the Epstein drive, from the Expanse or something, but we don't have that. We don't have a fusion drive, so we have to make deal with what we've got.
Mm-hmm. Give me one sec.
I'm filling out your doc, by the way.
Oh, thank you. The flame trench doc really needs to be revised today, huh?
Yeah, but I think it's going to be mainly one topic. I don't know. Like here's the hilarious thing is I look at the doc. Spoilers. I look at the doc, and you got rollback, you got the ASAP report, and you got the changes to Artemis. It's all like one thing. I don't even think that's not even 3 separate topics. That's all one. That's just the Artemis program.
Dude, this is
like literally it's. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's shocker. That's not surprising.
SpaceX shares the same goal as returning NASA to the moon with a permanent presence as expeditiously and safely as possible. We look forward to working with NASA to fly missions that demonstrate valuable progress towards establishing permanent, sustainable presence on the lunar surface. Frequent human exploration flights helps establish a sustainable presence for humans in space.
You know what's funny?
I'm in.
You know what was funny? It was the ASAP's report, what they did to describe SpaceX, how they talked about the hurdles for Artemis 3 with the older version of Artemis 3 and how it was going to be, how it could be a problem and whatnot. And then at the end they go, yeah, but if there's any company that could do this, it's SpaceX.
Wait, say that again?
You read the whole ASAP or read parts of the ASAP, right?
I have not actually read that yet because I've been shoveling so much snow, Ryan. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, yeah.
I got nailed with that horror blizzard.
they were talking about the old Artemis the old Artemis 3 model, and how it was how it was going to be incredibly hard in order to get the flight cadence up for tankers, depots, refueling, get HLS to the moon, land it, and all do this all by 2028. They laid it all out. And then at the end of it all, they go, yeah, but if there was any company to figure it out, it'd be SpaceX. Is basically what they said.
Yeah.
I was like, that's hilarious.
Oh boy. Time to get stoked. What do we got, Sam? All right. Let's see. In that video, Jared says remaining SLS rockets. I think we're losing SLS after Artemis 5. Holy crap, dude. Look at that. Ryan, you see what I got on, you see what I got up on here?
It's glorious.
Oh, bro, it's so good.
Can't wait for Stoke to fly.
That dude. And that
And
dude,
then-
that
and
ain't
then
no qualification article. That's the real deal.
The biggest thing for me with Stoke is I want to see this fly and then scale it up. Scale it. Like, can you imagine? I mean, not even, let's, like,
Discovery,
Starship
go at throttle.
sized, whatever. No, I'm talking like, let's do
SCRV.
this like, what?
SERV. An SERV
Oh.
sized upper stage from Stoke
Or,
would be
or like the rocket, make the rocket the size of like Vulcan. That's kind of like an intermediate size.
Mhm.
You know, fully
I'm cool with that.
reusable, maybe 15, 20 tons to low Earth orbit. Oh, hell yeah.
Hmm.
I am excited for Stoke. Out of all, other than Relativity, because Relativity's done pretty dang good with their pad. They're chugging along very well. But Stoke's pad is done. All they need is their all they need is to finish their rocket, which, I mean, they're getting there, and then put it on the pad and static fire it, and then wet dress rehearsal it and launch. Maybe this year. I'm thinking this year. I'm pretty hopeful.
I'd say fall.
Unlike Neutron. What?
Oh, they done messed up Aaron with that qual article.
You had a third party company manually lay it up.
Yeah, guys.
That's not even a qual article.
They so in Rocket Lab's earnings report yesterday, that qual article that exploded that delayed the Neutron launch was made by hand.
Yeah, that's just
They hand laid the carbon fiber. It wasn't done on a mandrel. That I don't know why they probably did that to get minimum viable product, but also at the same time, what?
And also, they even stated it was to try to speed up the process.
Yep.
I'm like, you state no, just no.
I don't know why you would do that way, but you suppose the BOLE booster failing played a large part in the cancellation of 1B. So, guys, like, I want to be very clear. We don't.
Bull wasn't 1B. That's block 2.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what refactored SLS design. We don't know what that is. For us noobs, what are we looking at? This is Stoke Aerospace's upper stage. Their upper stage is a singular rocket engine power pack with a bunch of nozzles clustered together. And the upper stage engine is heat shield shaped. They're making a reusable second sage. And that is
Hydrolox.
Yeah, it's using hydrogen. So the heat shield is a heat exchanger during reentry. So not only is it an upper stage that can provide thrust, right? It's an upper stage engine that can also work as a heat shield. Yeah. Guys, just going back to it, like, here's the thing. Everything that Ryan and I have been kind of talking about with, like, ConOps and everything, that's all still up in the air. This doesn't mean that, like, Block 2 SLS is getting canceled. This doesn't mean that Gateway is getting canceled. It's just a refactored design. Now, granted, this infographic does have what looks like a Centaur 5 upper stage on top of SLS. It looks like it. I don't know if it's hard to say. And Ryan, I think you said it best, where graphics are graphics. This doesn't necessarily mean the final design. I think this means this shows kind of what NASA wants, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the final thing. They would not even confirm if the EUS is dead or not. Like, we don't, we've been saying like, oh, the EUS is dead, but if I'm going to be absolutely, semi-professional here for a second, you don't know that for sure. You don't know. It is possible that they're taking the EUS and putting a BE3U on the back of it. An EUS with a singular BE3U would solve all these problems as well. That's a really good idea. Can you imagine an EUS with twin BE3Us? You were talking about that a little bit earlier.
Why not? Let's do it.
That's actually a really good idea.
Can the thrust structure would have to be completely and utterly changed because the BE3Us are what? How much thrust do the BE3Us?
500 a pop.
Again?
Oh, actually,
And
no,
the
it's more.
RL
It's like 700 at this point.
It's like 700. The RL10s are again. I always love to make this comparison because it's always hard to make this comparison because of the drastic differences in thrust. But it's always the funniest thing I've ever seen. An RL10 has less max thrust than a CFM 56-7.
Ugh.
Less.
I mean, but it has way higher specific impulse, though.
Actually, no. Technically, a jet engine has higher specific impulse than a rocket engine. So technically, a CFM 56 is way better than RL10, but it can't operate in space. So that's besides the point. But either way, it is always a funny fact that a single 737 engine. In fact, actually, a 737 has more thrust than the ICPS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good. We were talking about higher energy transfers. I never liked the EUS. The reason why the EUS is the way it is, guys, with 4 RL10s, is because it was designed to simultaneously be able to handle asteroid redirect, potential lunar exploration, and also scientific probes like Europa Clipper, which, oops. That's why it's a compromise between a scientific payload delivery upper stage, a lunar exploration upper stage, and maybe deep space rendezvous upper stage. That's why it is the way that it is. It's not really the best. It's trying to be a jack of all trades like the rest of SLS. That's why. But if you're going to sustainably explore the moon, you need a higher energy upper stage. It's not necessarily a bad design. What happened to your Europa Clipper? It was supposed to launch on SLS, but they forgot to procure an SLS in the contracting for it. I'm not even kidding. They said, "Yep, we're going to launch Europa Clipper on SLS. SLS, are you ready?" And then the SLS people said, "Wait, what? Wait, we are? This is news to us." Yeah, that is what happened. That's the very, very condensed version of it. But yeah, so Europa Clipper, has that gone already? I think that's gone. I think it flew.
Oh yeah, it went
on Falcon Heavy
a year and a half ago almost.
Dang, time flies, dude.
It went October of 2024. Yeah, fully expended. Can you imagine if it had gone on another certain rocket? It probably would have gotten to where it needs to go sooner. If only that rocket was a little bit farther in development, and that would have been New Glenn. New Glenn would have done a better job at chucking it where it needed to go because of its higher energy upper stage. But seeing a fully expended Falcon Heavy is also kind of cool.
SLS is a jack of all trades. Is it good at anything? It's good at. Well, I was about to say it's good at putting people into lunar rectilinear halo orbit, but that remains to be seen.
ULA looks forward to continuing supporting NASA and our country's goal to reestablish human presence on the moon. What are you helping with? I mean, you got the ICPS. That's about it. ULA. What? ULA is just. They're not in a great place.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I mean, here's the thing, man. We can all say that they're not in a great place, and that booster stuff is no good, and the Space Force is pretty pissed at them right now. But Blue paid up front for like 38 Vulcan launches, dude. So I don't think they give a frick. To be honest with you, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, yeah, I don't think ULA is run this way, but if we want to just go with the legacy contractor, like, maximize the equity in the company, think of the shareholders, et cetera, I think ULA is going to ride this Project Kuiper wave and then divest. If you're going to run it call it the MBA way, not NBA, MBA, Masters of Business Administration. You're going to run it that way, let the Project Kuiper contracts do their thing, deal with stuff with the Space Force, and then divest. Get rid of it after that.
If you're Boeing and Lockheed, if you're Boeing and Lockheed, like seriously, what's the point in keeping it going? You're losing NSSL contracts all the time to New Glenn and Falcon. And you're going to eventually start losing him to Starship, although I think it's going to be a while before Starship's ready for NSSL. Like, the hilarious thing is you look at Starship and you go, well, they have to figure out their Starlinks, they have to get to orbit, they have to figure out refueling, they have to figure out tankers, they have to figure out depots, they have to figure out HLS, they have to figure out their whole architecture for building their 1 million sat thing that they requested from the FCC. Where in there is it viable to build a cargo deploying Starship for NSSL? Like, I don't think Starship's going to do NSSL till like the 2030s at this rate.
Say that one more time. It's national security stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to stay with Falcon for SpaceX. I think Falcon 9 is going to keep flying to the mid 2030s. There's no reason to get rid of the thing. It's far too useful. Crew Dragon is way too useful to get rid of. Yeah. The thing is that Starship isn't really in the market for NSSL launches. There really isn't a reason for it, to be honest. There's nothing that's big enough that requires Starship for that. Not yet, anyways.
All right, dude. I think we should save the rest for the flame trench. This is, dude. This flame trench is gonna be so freaking long, man. Oh my goodness, we're gonna be going. Ryan, are you gonna make a guest appearance there or no?
I don't know yet. I'm going to be entirely honest with you.
Ping the flame trench channel. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll figure something out here, because even with all the changes to Artemis, this kind of affects Starship a lot, and there's a lot of cool stuff with Starship, especially a lot of the cool stuff we've seen with Chip 39, because I've been staring at the dang thing. There's so many cool heat shield changes with it.
Dude, the Starlink antenna is behind the heat shield. You see that?
Yeah, they're part of the heat shield now.
Yeah, guys, check this out. I'll bring it up. I'm going to show them. Give me one sec. Keep going.
So like some of the cool things. So if you take a look at Block 1 and 2 Starships, like at the nose cone, yeah, that's one of the Starlink antennas.
Yeah, they put the Starlinks behind the tiles, dudes.
If you take a look at the nose cone, you seam every once in a while there. It's because when you're, of course, going up a cone, you have to readjust and resize your heat shield tiles. Well, between Block 2 and 3, they got rid of a strip. So they're like less seams all across the heat shield. The entire aft section used to be its own tile size. Now it's the same as the rest of the tank section. the heat shield
Brother.
looks amazing.
Holy crap.
That heat shield is so beautiful.
Dude, you know what this reminds me of? Hold up. Let me I have my very, very private shuttle collection of pictures. I have a picture of Endeavour the day it rolled out of the factory. Let me see if I can find it. It reminds me of that picture. There it is.
Like, they have done a very good job at getting this heat shield.
Look at the heat shield on the shuttle. That's Endeavour. That's in 91 when it rolled out from Palmdale. Look at that.
It's beautiful.
And now, dude, that's the real deal, baby. No more bullcrap tile test where we put a hole in it. No.
So
This is the real heat shield.
So go back to shuttle for a second here.
With pleasure.
So they're kind of like little like partial circle tiles that run along the leading edges of the first part of the delta wing as it slides back and then it comes back out.
You're talking about right where I'm zooming in?
Yeah, kind of to the right of that. Yeah, that kind of area there. Those little the strakes, the little like thin tiles that run along that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here. Actually, I'll send you a picture. I don't know if SpaceX has the good shots of it. One sec. Starship now has a version of that, by the way.
Of these thinner, they changed tile thickness.
Let's see here. Here, stand by.
Okay. Telling there's holes in the flaps. Oh, come on. Stop it. Just make one go through. I think just make one go through reentry. We gotta finalize this damn heat shield, man. Guys, I'm talking to Ryan Weber, who commentates over on NSF and writes for NSF as well. We were nerding out from today's press conference, so we were like,
I DM'd it to you, by the way, the picture.
We were like, let's talk.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that? What is that?
That is from Caesar. That is the aft of S-39. So look at the flap tiles. Look at on the edge of the flap.
Yeah. What the hell? Look at this.
You see the little, those are all pinned now, pretty much. And there's a little bit of gap filler in them, but they're all pinned rather than glued on. Just about almost every single tile on the ship is now pinned. There's some glued here and there. I think there's some glued around the catch points. And then the tip of the nose cone is glued, but just about everything else is using physical pins. Which is a gigantic upgrade over shuttle.
Yeah. I mean, dude, personal theory, because of the heat flux of aluminum, they couldn't mechanically adhere the tiles on the shuttle. They couldn't do it. With the stainless and the way the stainless steel takes the heat, you can afford mechanical adherence, and I think that's working very well to SpaceX's advantage. Because guys, when the space shuttle was going through reentry, the whole thing got a little bit bigger. The whole damn thing expanded, and the tiles expanded too. And that's why they needed to shim the tiles. And that's why they didn't have gap filler on the space shuttle's tiles either. There's nothing in between these. The tiles absorb the heat. When they absorb the heat, they expand, and it works like if you're into, Roman siege formations, it works like a phalanx, and they actually butt up against each other. And that's what keeps the heat out. But the whole fuselage of the shuttle is designed to tank some heat, and the whole thing expands. It turns out when you're flying at Mach 25, the vehicle performs a little bit different than it does at, subsonic speeds. Now, SpaceX, they have the gap filler because they can mechanically adhere the tiles. So the gap filler, the tiles they're not going to expand. Because the stainless can actually tank the heat a lot more, so the whole thing is not going to expand as much. So you could get away with the gap fillers and stuff, but they still glue it in points of high stress, like the catch pins, like what Ryan was saying. Like I've read a ton about this. It's actually super smart. That's a really good idea because you want it to be able to move around because that's a high structural point.
So the picture I just sent you, if you go ahead and like, I would save that as and open it up in a viewer because it's better. So it's better to zoom in.
Here, check this out. Ready? You want to see something cool? Just go in here and just do some wishy-washy stuff with the URL. Boom. Higher res. Whoa. Oh, man. Bro, it looks so good. I haven't actually had the time to like stop and look at this thing. See, yeah, they're also using smaller tiles on these points so you could deal with more
there's
flex.
Actually a big difference here. So this is the forward dome, and it's got stringers behind the heat shield. Now on block 2 is when they started using the smaller tiles. But on block 2, you would have a horizontal seam on the top and the bottom of that strip of smaller tiles. On block 3, they have used specialized tiles on the top and bottom so that the smaller tiles slot into the larger tiles so that when they expand, it gap fills itself using the felt crunch wrap, and you don't have an RTV seam at all. They do that for the forward dome and the aft dome. The common dome still has a seam, but like it's.
Oh yeah.
So
oh yeah, I see them, dude. Look, they look like Legos. Holy crap, dude. I didn't even notice that. Oh, what a
it's the
masterpiece.
little things when you stare at this heat shield. It is a masterpiece what they've been able to do after 11 flights and all the sim testing and computer models. It looks amazing. It's so much more refined.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the ramps anymore either. So when you look up the side of the ship, there are no more ramps on the side anymore because the sockets are gone.
Yeah.
All you have is the catch pins. That's it.
Brother.
You just have a cylindrical object that just goes down.
Brother, well, look at this goddamn thing. What a freaking dude. I love it. I want Starship to vindicate my space shuttle so bad, dude. Like, oh my god. Dude, look at that heat shield. Holy balls, that's cool.
But by the way, I know people will say you can see gaps in the aft flaps there, the aft flap hinges. That's just because the seals for the hinges have not been installed yet. Those are usually like the last things that are installed. That's why that gap's there. So don't worry about it. It'll get sealed up.
Yeah, dude, I see that common dome. Yeah, the tiles are slightly different to deal with the flex because of your differential temperatures between propellants.
It's
cool.
A beauty of design.
Dude.
Like, if you go all the way back to Block 1, you will see, like, horizontal seams all across the tank sections.
Yeah.
Because they didn't, and not only that, they also, when they, between, like, ring sections that, you know how they stack it and everything, between the ring sections, they would glue those tiles. They didn't pin them. But now, in Mega Bay 2, when they go to stack to two sections together, there's a separate robot that goes and installs pins, and then they tile it before they stack the next section. Like, it's they've gotten their manufacturing process down, and it looks beautiful.
Oh, dude, really does. Yeah, this is. Ryan, dare I say, this is some Renton stuff. This is some Everett stuff. You know what I mean.
The only dirty part of this heat shield is the tip of the nose cone. That's about the only dirty part of it. Other than that,
but you know what the messed up part is, dude. Like, people are gonna say, like, "Oh, it's the nose cone." The nose cone doesn't even get the hottest in this design. This part gets the hottest.
It's the aft. It's that in the aft too.
Yep,
the aft gets pretty hot.
And down here, the reason why is because Starship doesn't go through reentry kind of nose first like this. It belly flops through reentry, so it's more perpendicular to your windward velocity during its reentry regime, right? So if that's the case, this part's going to get the hottest, not up there. Now, once again, it's very interesting because you go back and look at the space shuttle. If the space shuttle had a pointed nose cone like Starship did, right, that went out here, that would be getting the hottest. But the engineers at Rockwell took the nose cone and they pointed it down. If you look at the shuttle's nose cone, it points down. Yeah. It's going that way to solve that same exact problem. they pointed that nose down because when the shuttle was coming through reentry, they wanted the nose cone perpendicular into windward velocity. That's why that's why that nose cone is also super blunt. If you look at it, it doesn't look like a nose cone. It looks like a turtle shell, right? Like,
yeah,
that's entirely on purpose. In Starship, the Starship nose cone is not going to get the hottest. No way. Flap joints, aft hatch, the aft section, and like right here. And if you look at the last couple of Starship reentries that they've done, this is the part that's scorched the most, right there.
Yeah, and
might have stopped.
I really hope it looks like the only heat shield experiment they are running is they went through and drilled out a bunch of tiles right where the pins are, and then it looks like they injected something like an RTV or something. There's a chance that the Block 3 pins don't work exactly that well, but we'll find out when it reenters, I guess. There is a small chance that when this thing launches, it looks like Ship 25 on Ascent. For anyone who remembers what Ship 25 looked like, it had like half its tiles missing. But we'll find out. We'll find out what happens after it static fires in probably a month.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. All right, dudes. I think we should save the rest for the flame trench, to be honest with you. We could sit here and swoon over this for a long time. So I think that's where we'll call it here. We just ended up doing kind of a space news with with Artemis hardware. But yeah, I'm going to switch over to playing games for a little while. So thanks for popping in. Hopefully I'll see you on the flame trench, dude.
Yeah, hopefully I see you then. I don't know who's producing today. I'll figure something out. But
yeah, ask.
Yeah.
Be the squeaky wheel.
All right, see ya.
All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Later. How about that, huh? B-52's new F-130 engine, complete altitude and operability testing. Very nice. The F-130's, the Rolls-Royce motors. Very nice. You ever stared at it? Marveled at its beauty? Its genius? So that was Ryan Weber. He's a writer and a contributor over at NSF. Yeah, I needed somebody to geek out with, dudes. And I was like, Ryan, come talk with me. He's like, all right. So that's what happened. Oh boy. Huh. Yeah. Give me 1 second. Did you see the post from Scott Manley? No. According to a NASA report, Lunar Trailblazer failed because software pointed the solar panels away from the sun. The NASA panel says Lockheed did not properly test solar panel pointing software before launch. Andrew, why'd you link that? Why? What? Oh my goodness. Jeez. Nader, question from before. That's ridiculous. Okay, if you can have high TWR and good delta V, why are all stages engineered for maximum TWR instead of longer, lower energy burns? They're not. That's what an RL10 is made for, dude. RL10 is supposed to do that. That RL10 in Centaur has been doing that for almost a half century. 1962 was the first Centaur flight. More than half a century. Okay. Give me 1 second. I mistype. Why are they not engineered for maximum TWR instead of longer burns? So Nader, that comes down to application. It's basically application. What is the upper stage trying to do? So something like the Saturn V with the S4B, you need a good kick in the pants. You got to move all that crap out to the moon, right? The lander, the CSM, 3 meat bags, all the paraphernalia to keep the meat bags from not like dying, right? But for something like Centaur, a satellite doesn't care if it's on a 6-hour transfer or a 6-year transfer. It doesn't give a frick. That's the difference. It really comes down to application. It's like comparing like a Harrier to an F-35, a Harrier to like an F-18 would be a better comparison. Yeah, they're both fighter jets. They do different things though. An F-18 can break the sound barrier, Harrier can't, right? Like that's the difference. Not every upper stage needs to be a high energy upper stage. Or a high TWR upper stage. High TWR is much better suited in applications of human exploration. This is why Starship gets a kick in the pants when it leaves the pad. That is a very, very important thing to understand. Same with the Space Shuttle. Space Shuttle had 1.4 thrust of weight at takeoff, which is bananas. That's ridiculous considering you're flying a brick into space. What is the advantage of longer burn versus higher TWR? So a longer burn is generally longer burns at low thrust generally mean it's more efficient. But efficiency isn't really the thing here. Like, okay, let me put it to you this way. You can optimize around low TWR, high delta V if what you're trying to put into space doesn't have like a shelf life of 6 hours. Okay. So, and what you end up doing there with something like Centaur is that you can make a stage incredibly light. There's a certain point where you're pushing a heavy payload up into space. You need to reinforce the stage. Centaur with low TWR can move whatever. It just needs a longer burn to do it. It's much more capable for an overall application, like all around. Give me 1 second, dude. Yeah, like it really depends. Like, loads have a lot to do with it. You can make the upper stage much lighter. So like, here's the thing, Nader, I'll give you another example. Eric Berger has been saying for a long time about how SLS would be so much better if you put a Centaur V from Vulcan on top of it. And while he's not necessarily wrong, I'd be very worried at this point. Not very worried. I mean, it's something that it's not unsolvable, right? But because a Centaur is so ridiculously optimized for putting big satellites over long duration burns into high orbits like GEO, right? Having a Centaur on top of something that scoots off the pad like SLS, right? You got, what is it? Like 7.5 million pounds, or no, 8 million pounds of thrust behind you, right? And you have a 25-ton Orion capsule on top. I'm not sure it would be able to take the load because a balloon tank is not designed to do that. So this is what I was talking with Ryan about. Here, let's take a look at an Atlas V 551. So the bigger versions of Atlas V that are still flying. It's this guy right here. So Atlas has that problem. And in order to overcome that, what Lockheed engineers did was they made a gigantic fairing that encompasses the second stage and spacecraft, right? They also equipped Atlas with what's called a CFLR, a forward load reactor. Okay, so what is a load reactor in structural design? It's something that helps carry the load. So if you just had like this gigantic geosatellite on top of the Centaur with no FLR and you went to launch this thing, Centaur would crumple like a freaking beer can. It wouldn't be great. You have to have that to be able to carry some of the load and help keep Centaur straight up. It helped keep it from basically crumpling during ascent, right? If you wanted to put Centaur on top of SLS, you'd need to do something like this. Or reinforce the hell out of Centaur 5 to the point where having that optimized satellite delivery thing, any efficiency that you gain from it is going to be lost. Even the EUS, which might be on its way out, we don't know for sure, right? Like, even the exploration upper stage, that NASA, tentatively at this point, it was going to put on SLS Block 1B. Look at it. Take a look. What the EUS does, and what the ICPS does too, for what it's worth, is you have your liquid oxygen tank hanging from your hydrogen tank. It's hanging off of it. Why? This makes it so your liquid oxygen tank doesn't have to carry the freaking load of the entire rocket pushing up on the stage and the entire payload and Orion pushing down on the stage. This affords you to be able to basically strengthen the hydrogen tank, and that's it. You only have to strengthen the hydrogen tank, and the liquid oxygen tank can be as thick and as mass intense enough to carry the liquid oxygen. All it has to do is be able to take the load of the 4 RL-10s. That's it. A load reactor flask is what it's called. Isn't 1B just the upper stage being changed to the EUS? For the most part, yeah. I think that's the first I've never heard about load-bearing fairings. That's how Atlas has been working for years, dude. The forward load reactor needs to be there. The cylindric part of Atlas 500's fairing has to be able to take that structural load. They offset some of the load to the fairing, which is extremely strong when it's in a cylindric configuration, right? Because it's a cylinder, Drew. Like, that's super strong. A pillar is the strongest form of support, right? A pillar is the strongest form of column, right? Think we've known that for 2 millennia. If you look at Greek architecture, even more than 2 millennia, right? Like the Parthenon, part of it is still standing because it's using pillars. It's using fluted pillars to hold up stuff, right? Even Roman stuff, which basically lifted Greek architecture, right? They use pillars everywhere. That's how you hold stuff up. Give me 1 second. Sorry, a lot of messages to deal with today. Okay, that makes total sense. I was a bit confused about why different applications. Referring to your Harrier versus Hornet comparison, they have 2 different missions, effectively. I just wasn't seeing where the different purposes came into. It's all orbital mechanics, man. It's all orbital mechanics. Long story short, you need something with some get up and go if you're putting people on it. It has to have high delta V, but it needs to have high TWR. The reason why is because Earth will pull you back down before you finish the burn otherwise. Now, with a satellite that can stay up there for a long period of time, it can handle a transit 6, 7, 8, 12, 10 hours a week, a month. You don't necessarily have to worry about that. So you can afford a lower TWR, higher delta V situation there because the satellite doesn't die. It doesn't run out of air. What'll happen to Gateway? I think it's very telling that they didn't mention anything about it. Meat bags versus no meat bags. Yep. Mm-hmm. I mean, actually, Nader, a better comparison at this point would be, comparing an F-35 to an MQ-9. Or a what is it? The Global Hawk, right? They're both airplanes. They're both jets. Well, the Predator isn't, but do they do different things? Yeah. Can one stay up there for way longer periods of time? Yeah. Why? Because it doesn't have a person on board. MQ-9 is a Reaper. It's a drone. Here, I'll show you. So this thing, that's an MQ-9. Is that an airplane? Yeah, of course. But because it doesn't have people on board, it's an entirely different design than what you'd see with a person, right? What about an MQ-58? The MQ-58 is a completely different animal, right? Compared to, well, it's an XQ-58 because it's still experimental, but you get the idea. It's a completely different animal to the F-35. Oh, I got another message. That thing is ridiculous, by the way. If you understand what an XQ-58 or an MQ-58 is supposed to do, if anybody's ever played StarCraft, think Protoss carrier. Yeah. It's pretty scary stuff. pretty scary stuff. And I know what you're going to say. Like, well, how are they going to launch how are they going to get all those things up there? Like, is there a mothership carrier? No. How did they get it up there? Rockets. Lots of rockets. Why have it launch missiles when you could just attach a bunch of missiles to the back and get it to fly faster? Obviously. Look at it, MQ-4. Yeah, there you go. See what I mean? Sometimes I'm glad we're allies. Snivels, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of one of those. MQ-58s are ridiculous, dude. It's an AFRL project. That dude. They do some pretty nutty stuff over there. Like, why launch missiles when you can be the missile? Yep. Yeah, the Global Hawk is another good example. Yep. The Triton is built off of the Global Hawk. Yeah, there you go. Look at the D-21. A little bit too before its time, dude, but yeah. Like, this thing doesn't get tired. You can just sit up there as long as you have fuel. Stay up there as long as you want. But yeah, good stuff, man. Good stuff. Do you guys want to play Factorio at all? Like, I don't even know what to do today. Here, let me see if the car parts that I got coming in have arrived. Let's take a look. My package is running late, but it's still on its way. Yeah, I figured this would happen because of the snowstorm. Okay. The Skynet stuff started to be a little bit more realistic than I want to think. Well, the MQ-58s are not controlled by like a neural net or a large language model. They're controlled by a person. Yeah, the swarm is controlled by a person, so it's still human in the loop. Still a lot of snow on the ground. Yeah, I have about, I don't know, 60 centimeter still on the ground. Most of it's melted. The last 2 days have been warm. 2KS being designed at SLS second stage you want to see. Work on the snowblower. It's all the way down there. I don't know. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 moment. I'm getting a lot of messages, guys. Yeah. This is what I'm getting linked the most of. Guys, if you really want to know. Thank you for shooting me this link. Look, that's what I'm getting linked the most of. I don't hate it, bros. I don't hate it. I really don't. I don't hate it. In fact, that's what I've been saying to do for a very long time. The VAB is too short, though. Fellas, okay, Helpish, yes, you're not wrong, but please answer me this. If NASA is willing to refactor the entire upper stage and payload design for SLS, do you think they're going to draw the line at the VAB being too tall? Like, do you think that's where they're going to draw the line? The VAB is modular. Make it tall. Bingo. Exactly. Are they using RS-68s? No, it's still RS-25Es, I think. I still don't think a Centaur is going to go on top of that thing. Like, you'd have to reinforce the snot out of that Centaur. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. Who knows? Maybe ULA built up the Centaur to be more structurally integral. I mean, Vulcan definitely doesn't have the a forward load reactor like Atlas V did. So maybe they reinforced it. I don't know. Refactoring the VAB would add a couple more next years to the project, though. Are we officially changing the SLS second stage? Jasper, they didn't really say, to be honest. They didn't say. What they did do is say that the design is going to be refactored to increase flight cadence for SLS. But they didn't really get into, to quote Amit, a whiteboard summary of their concept of operations, you know? If 1B is canceled, then the EUS is canceled. Yeah. You know, I'll admit, if they take SLS and put like Glenn Stage 3, GS3 on it, and basically confine it to a revised Block 1 configuration, that's a huge waste of the core stage and SRBs, but just my opinion. thought Tori said Centaur 5 was not balloon tanks. No, I'm pretty sure it is. Spoiled. I'm pretty damn sure. It's a balloon tank. It's 5-meter balloon tank. With the Rocket Lab news, where do you think Neutron stands? I think, Yum Food, if you really want my honest opinion, I think Rocket Lab, trying to save time, ended up biting them in the butt. As it always does. There's no shortcuts in this industry, dude. You know that. Ain't no shortcuts. Hand laying up having people hand lay the carbon fiber for the Neutron qualification test article was not a smart decision. Wouldn't the mobile launcher tower need to change for a longer second stage? Depends. If they're putting Glen Stage 3 up there, maybe not. But we don't know what Glen Stage 3 is. So we'll see. I don't think, guys, I'm not entirely sure that they know what they're going to do just yet. Either that or they're still in contract negotiations and weighing trade-offs between different standardized architectures, which is why they didn't hint at anything. KSP to try out the SLS GS2 concept. I don't think I could get it done in 3 hours, refining, building out SLS the way I want it. I missed the stream. What if Blue Origin just says no thanks to NASA? What do you mean, Run? No thanks to what? Blue Origin, they can't say no thanks at this point. They have a multi-billion-dollar contract with NASA for sustainable lunar development. I don't think they'd renege out of that. What a freaking day, dude. What a crazy day. I did not anticipate this news happening when I woke up this morning. Given the information available, this is a really bad decision. You think so? Huh. Theoretically, could Artemis 3 launch without an ICPS? That would mean they could save the ICPS for Artemis 4, giving standardized SLS more time to get ready. I wouldn't do that, Ship 20. You're going to standardize around a stage that you're going to use once? I don't think that's a good idea. I just don't understand how you guys think that increasing SLS's launch cadence is a bad decision. I would also like to point out that it's very easy to be cynical when your goals are ambitious. Just keep that in mind. You know, it's very easy to say, they'll never do that. They'll never do that. You know, we have an opportunity to refactor SLS's architecture to make it a more long-term viable system. And yeah, that's going to take time. But I think we're in a very interesting position right now where NASA has the support of the president, they have the support of Congress, and they have the support from major defense players in the that have contracts with NASA. I think this is a really good time to refactor. I mean, don't get me wrong, the best time to refactor would have probably been 2018 when I said they should refactor the architecture. That would probably be that was the best time to do it. Now is the second best time to do it. They didn't even say what upper stage they were going with. They don't have the time and are going back to square one. People are messaging me the same thing, Hellfish. I don't know how people could say that with such reasonable conviction. Like, you don't know that for sure. One of the points I was trying to make with Ryan is that this was clearly orchestrated. Like, this is not something that they did out of the blue. It's something that's been planned for a long time. There's no way that this thing came out of the blue. There's no way. They were vague about upper stages and mobile launchers and stuff because the contracts aren't finalized yet. That's modus operandi in the spaceflight industry. Dumb question. Do they have the supports of both sides of Congress? Jared Isaacman got confirmed with 67% of the Senate vote. I would call that a majority with both sides of the aisle, yes, if we're going to speak politically. I don't like doing that, but yes. The U.S. is in fabrication, guys. I want to point that out. It's not just the box. I only say that as a joke. They are working on the flight articles for Block 4 right now. Car parts didn't come in. They got delayed because of the snow run. I just checked. Opinion of Bill Nelson sitting on his hands for 4 years doing nothing. I do not think history will be kind to him. Yeah, the press, dude. It's their job to report the news, Scott. I don't blame people wanting to get more insight into this, but I do appreciate Jared being able to come out and say this stuff, you know, being transparent about what NASA's doing and didn't, you know, not just springing this on us in 6 months, you know. The thing is, though, is that if you announce your plans as you go like this, people are going to start dooming and asking questions. The questions you don't necessarily have the answer to, which is why NASA has been tight-lipped in the past, because that can easily turn into bad press. But if you want my honest opinion, I don't think Jared gives a frick about that. I don't think he cares. I think he's much more focused on the mission and much more about doing what's right, what he thinks is right for NASA, than, you know, a little bit of bad press here and there. Bill wasn't a NASA guy. He was a senator from Florida that was a huge advocate for space, and he did fly into space in 1986. In January of 1986, believe it or not. He flew as a spaceflight participant on I think it was the STS-60 61A, I think is what it was called. It was the mission before Challenger. Yeah, he flew. Not a lot of people know that NASA had already done a shuttle mission in January. Challenger was the second shuttle mission to fly in 1986. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. It's because NASA was going to ramp up and they were going to launch 24 times in 1986. They had it ready to go. It's interesting. I'm seeing a lot of mixed opinions about this. I mean, I don't necessarily think this is a bad idea, upping SLS's flight cadence. I really don't. I don't know. I have certain ways that I would do that, but how would I ramp up the launch cadence? If I was in Jared Isaacman's shoes at this point in time, I would do exactly what he's going to do with Artemis 3. I think that's a great idea. Now, if you want to go refactoring Artemis 4, 5, and 6, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. That's fine. But, so, okay, let's get this down to brass tacks. We know for a fact that Artemis 4, 5, and 6 are all going to launch on an SLS. That is a definite thing. There's already hardware for out to all those missions. I believe the One Big Beautiful Bill put missions out to Artemis 8, if I'm remembering correctly, with SLS, right? So if that was the case, I would really, a block buy of SLS, basically securing SLS missions out until like Artemis 20, I think would probably be the most sustainable way to up your flight cadence, because doing that ensures that these programs have long-term job security. What is that going to do? That's going to keep people there. That's going to keep people there because you know you're going to have a job in 10 years. You know, uncertainty in your spaceflight architecture is going to make people leave. A good example of this would be when the Apollo program was on its way out. NASA had a gigantic brain drain. Tons of people left because they weren't sure if they were going to still go to the moon anymore. And when they figured out that they weren't going to the moon anymore, a bunch of people just said, F this, I'm out. Like Von Braun, for instance. Von Braun left. He left NASA in, I think it's 72, because he's like, this is stupid if we're not going to the moon anymore. That's so dumb. The space shuttle, what the hell is that? What a dumb idea. And then he left. Yeah, maybe, Tessa, who knows? A block buy would ensure job security, and that could reinforce cadence. Yeah. So another thing, guys, is that I don't think it's smart taking SLS out of the loop. And yeah, I said it, and I know people are not going to like that. There is not a reason. I like, here's the thing. I don't blindly support SLS just because big orange rocket. It's like the shuttle. I love it. No, that's not the reason. I want NASA to retain their own way to get to the moon until they can buy a commercial off-the-shelf launch vehicle and operate it in-house. For instance, Air Force One. So not Air Force One, VC-25A. It's a 747. It's a highly modified 747, the plane that the president flies around on. It's a highly modified 747, but it's a 747, right? It's still a 747 at the end of the day, right? That's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. NASA or the U.S. government would go and try and make its own 747 to move the president around. That makes no sense. They would buy a quote unquote off the shelf or a one-off version of something that already exists. The second that NASA can do that with a commercial option, i.e. Starship or whatever, whatever Blue's cooking up, they never tell us, but whatever they're cooking up, that is the point where I would say that you can get rid of SLS. I am not sure that that point is going to happen anytime soon. If you really want my honest opinion, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So, if we want to get rid of SLS under the guise that commercial can do it for cheaper or whatever cope that people come up with, right? Surrendering SLS would wind up with a stopgap. It would wind up with a period where we really don't have any way to get to the moon. Where NASA doesn't have any way to get to the moon. Do you think it's wise for NASA to use SLS and commercial partners to build a moon base and then not have their own way to get there? I don't think it's wise for NASA to be beholden to a corporation to get to their lunar scientific outpost. I never thought that was a good idea. And that's the reason why I support SLS. I don't blindly support it because of some crazy tribalism, right? I support it because that's the most sustainable way forward. You know, what did Von Braun do after NASA? He worked for Hughes, I think. Well, I think he worked. He went to work for a satellite company. I'm a 747. No, I'm a 747. Fairchild, that's what it was. Yeah, thank you, Dino. Yeah, exactly. Like until NASA, so Victory, you said VC, you know, the differences between like a 90s Lincoln Continental and a Mercury Grand Marquis. Yeah, exactly. They're more or less this. I mean, it's not the same thing. VC-25 is highly modified, but it still is on the chassis of a 747. Until NASA can buy off-the-shelf options to operate their own spacecraft, i.e., you know, buy a Starship and a Starship launch pad and use that for just solely NASA purposes, and NASA retains all operations for the vehicle, getting rid of SLS is a very, very bad idea, because that puts NASA beholden to corporations for our national space program goal. Now, once again, you could make the argument that that's what's going on right now with SLS, right? And I think that would be a fair point. But you know, if I was going to have my cake and eat it too, I would want both, because that ensures that, you know, you're not going to get in the private industry, you're not going to get market consolidation, right? And in the public sector side of things, you're not going to get a cancellation of a program. So if you look in the past, it's spaceflight history in the past, guys, right? You look at canceling Apollo. Why did we cancel Apollo? No competition. There was no reason to. There was no reason to keep going. We did what we needed to do. We won the space race, right? So some idiot government bureaucrat looked at it and said, this costs too much money, and got rid of it. And that was the end of that, right? Now, simultaneously, if you look at when we leaned heavy into commercial for doing what we need to do, right? In the 90s with the Evolved Expendable Launch Vehicle contract, right? So Delta IV, Atlas V, stuff like that. When the dot-com bubble burst, it no longer made launching payloads into space a viable, profitable venture. So everybody tried to pull out. And the government said, nope, you're not doing that. And forced Boeing and Lockheed to make ULA as a sole source government contractor so we wouldn't lose the capability of launching in space. Right? If you lean too heavy into private, you're going to get market consolidation, and then something like ULA is going to end up existing. But if you lean too far into public, there's no saying that some idiot politician is just going to be like, nope, I don't want to do this anymore either. The most sustainable way is to do both of those things at the same time. Because if a corporation can get to the moon, you'd be dang sure that Uncle Sam wants to be able to get there as well, right? And because Uncle Sam can get there, you're not going to get there's always going to be competition in the market. There's always going to be somebody saying that they can do it cheaper. So that keeps the market nice and competitive for the commercial market. No one's going to pull out of the program if they know NASA's going to build a moon base. I totally agree. We see this with Commercial Crew, where SpaceX costs have not come down to the taxpayer as we don't have Ares 1 to compete with Starliner failing. There you go, Matt. The assumption that you'd get market consolidation, good anti-monopoly laws should prevent that. How many ways do we have to launch the ISS right now, Fox? Launch people to the ISS. Two. Soyuz and Dragon. Sorry to insist, and if it's out of topic, but what is happening with Lunar Gateway? No, they didn't say anything about the gateway, and I think that's very telling, TFT. Can Soyuz launch yet? Not really. They're fixing the pad. They're fixing Site 31. It should be ready to go a little bit later this year. Was there any testing done on the new Starship that rolled out yet? If not, what can we expect? They're going to do cryo testing at Massey sometimes in the next couple of days, dude. But yeah, I don't know. I've given that spiel about, you know, NASA needing to do their own thing and private companies needing to do their own thing, and they can work together, but they need to both exist many times. I just figured this would be the right time to say it. Technically 2 or 3, but my point was that you always end up with a single provider if there is profit without anti-monopoly laws. Yeah, exactly. But you said it yourself, Fox. Who enforces those? We have something like, that's what I mean. Like that really doesn't exist in defense and aerospace. You know what I mean? If that was the case, Boeing would have competition for passenger planes. I mean, they have competition from overseas with Airbus, but yeah, whether that's, you know, fair market or not, I don't know. That's a whole nother can of worms that I don't want to get into. I think having a national space program in-house is the best antitrust law that you can have. Now, don't get me wrong, guys. I say that this is the most sustainable way forward. It is, because it is. That's not the most cost-effective way forward, but it's the most sustainable. Long-term viability is what we're talking about. Yeah, Chief, that's a good point. Did you have a chance to go over the quarterly results yet? No, I haven't. I've been still moving snow, dude. All the snow is starting to melt, and it's falling off the roofs, and I have to shovel everything again, which is just... Yeah. The entrance to the garage looks like a damn skating rink. But anyway, I don't know. This is an interesting discussion, and we'll talk more about it on Flame Trench. Yeah, I'm way behind on space news and stuff, dudes, because, yeah, I've been trying to give you guys the game content that you want to see, trying to do space news, and trying to clean up from the natural disaster that hit my house on Monday. It's a lot. Let's go clean the shop. I don't know, man. I got kind of a headache, dude. I might need to take 5. My brain, my head's killing me right now. Anyway. Yeah, I might come back at the top of the hour. I don't know. Maybe we'll play Factorio or something. I said we'd work out in the shop if the car parts came, and they're not gonna. They're gonna be here later tonight. So, grab a coffee and a quick break. Probably caffeine low. Yeah. DLS, long-term listener, first-time caller. How close do you think to Jared's cadence within 10-month turnaround do you think we can reach? It's doable, ambitious, but doable. You're really going to need to hold some contractors' feet to the fire, Boeing and Northrop Grumman and everybody. Like, that's really what I'm worried about. But yeah, it's easy to be cynical. Remember, guys, I'll leave you on this. I'll be back in a little bit, but I'll leave you on this. Remember, it is easy to be cynical when the goals are bold. All right? There were people saying we'll never get to the moon by 1970, and then we did. All right? And then we did. So it's easy to say that can't be done. It's easy to say that won't be done. Remember, that is not the right mentality for a space program. Naysayers and cynics, that's how people get killed. Because you're inadvertently undermining effort. Don't do that. Remember that next time you weigh in on this stuff. And I'm not saying that naysayers are potentially wrong. This could be a bad idea. It's possible. But it's also a very bold goal, and I think it is important to challenge NASA. You have to, NASA is a machine that needs problems to solve, and this is a pretty damn good one to solve. Just keep that in mind, okay? TFT, I live in Toulouse, south of France, the city of space and aeronautics. We sadly haven't had snow in 20 years. Yeah, I know about Toulouse. Yeah. Toulouse is, they have Ariane 5 mock-up and stuff. Good stuff. I've never been there, though. But yeah. Me, I have a lot of snow. TFT, I have 1 meter of snow on Monday. 1 meter of snow, 100 kph winds. A freaking hurricane, cyclone, blizzard hit my freaking house, dude. I've been picking up the mess all week. Yeah. Anyway, what about the Van Allen belts? Go around them. What about them? Go around. That's what we did during Apollo. What do you think? We're going to fly through a freaking microwave? What are you, nuts? Go around it. It's a belt, not a sphere. The Van Halen belts. Yeah, those are pretty cool. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go drink some water. I'm going to take 5. I'll be back in probably about, I don't know, let's say a half hour to an hour at best. Yeah, should be good. Thank you very much for watching the Artemis update with me. I hope you enjoyed my insight. Yeah, that ended up going a lot longer than I wanted, but that's generally the case when we're talking about spaceflight. So, yeah, I'll see you guys in a little bit. I'm just going to go try to take a power nap. And when I get back, maybe we'll go out in the shop. If not, maybe we'll just play Factorio until Flame Trench. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I have to still finish revamping my science stuff in Factorio. So, you know, yeah, we might do that. I don't know. We'll see which one. I'll be back in a little bit. Space Vid? I don't know, maybe. I was just going to shut the stream off, Weather Guy. My head's killing me. I didn't get much sleep last night because Titan decided to sleep on me. And usually it's cute, but yeah, for whatever reason, didn't get good sleep. Anyway, I'll be back in 30 to an hour, okay? Thank you very much for watching, dudes. I will see you in a little bit for Flame Trench or whatever we decide to do. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. I'll be back later.